Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 18th, 2023 edition of the Maricopa County Board of Adjustment. Rosalie, would you please take roll?
Chairman Loper,
Present.
Vice Chairperson, Member Ward,
Present.
Member Cardin,
Present.
Member Clapp. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Approval of the minutes of the April 13th, 2023 meeting of the Board of Adjustment. Are there any comments or revisions from any of the board members? Seeing shaken heads, those are considered approved. I skipped one here. Darren, would you like to go ahead and introduce our new member?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Seated to your right is Ms. Suzanne Clapp. She is a new appointee to the board representing District 2.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome.
With the open meeting law, ARS 38-431. Agendas are available within 24 hours of each meeting in the Maricopa County Planning and Development Office, and are also available on the Planning and Development website 1 week prior to hearing at www.maricopa.gov/planning. With respect to the hearing process, cases will be considered in the order they appear on the agenda unless otherwise agreed to by the board. For each case, the applicant will be given a set amount of time to present their testimony. Any witness wishing to give testimony on a particular case shall notify the board of such interest. This shall be done by filling out a speaker's card. If you're here in person, get one of these, fill it out and give it to Rosalie, please. Or registering desire to comment on the published agenda if you're doing this online. At the appropriate time for each case, the chair will ask those attending in person and online who wish to speak to a case to raise their hand by clicking on that icon on the webinar screen. Staff will provide the chair with the names of persons who have registered and noted a desire to comment, and those registered participants who have raised their hand. Go to the next page, please. I think I'd have this memorized by now. The chair will call on each named participant one at a time. Such testimony shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. However, the actual amount of time allowed for testimony shall be at the discretion of the board chair. The chair will conduct the hybrid in-person and virtual public hearing according to the bylaws and according to the rules established by the chair regarding public comment. Votes will be done by roll call vote only, and the chair will verbally identify the specific members responsible for all motions and seconds. Move on to staff announcements. Darren or Rachel?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, your first 3 cases on the agenda, no action is necessary. Those include BA 2023-013, the Angulo property in District 5 that's been withdrawn by the applicant. BA 2023-020, known as All-Star Electric LLC in District 1, that has also been withdrawn by the applicant. And then finally, BA 2023-019, the Freeman property in District 4, that is to be placed on your June 15th agenda. So no action is necessary on those items.
Thank you very much. And as you mentioned, no.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Also agenda item 11, BA 2023-024 at 11343 East Apache Trail. That is being continued to July 20th.
All right. And as you mentioned, there's no action needed on our part. They're automatically continued or withdrawn. All right, then we'll move on to you approve the minutes to the, gosh, my agenda's on.
Oh, we're ready for the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon?
We're ready for the consent agenda.
We're ready for the consent agenda. Not showing it on my printed copy, apologize. Move on to the consent agenda. Go ahead, Darren.
Mr. Chairman, board members, there are 2 items. They are BA 2023-011, known as the Burn property in District 3, It's a request for variances to the east side setback and north rear setback at 4438 East Lakeside Lane in Clearwater Hills. There's no known opposition. The findings in paragraph 20 are that it meets the statutory test with suggested items to memorialize the variance approval of A through D. And then BA 2023-012, known as Brick and Market Real Estate in District 3. These are variance requests for a south front setback, a north rear setback, a west side setback, and hillside disturbance outside the lot's principal building envelope for property at 7202 North Red Ledge Drive in Clearwater Hills. There's no known opposition, and the findings in paragraph 25 are that it meets the statutory test for variance approval, with variance approval being memorialized by items A through E. I'm glad to try and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff on the consent agenda by any board member? Seeing the shaking of heads, no. Confirm with IT that we don't have anybody in attendance online that wishes to speak on any item, and we have no one in person here who wants to speak on a consent agenda item.
There is
Seeing-
no one online.
Thank you. All right. Seeing that, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Chairman Loper?
I move that we approve case number BA 2023011, case number BA 2023011.
We have a motion for approval by board member Knapp. Is there a second?
Chairman
Second by-
Loper, I
ahead.
vaguely heard member Clapp. I'm just curious, maybe if her microphone is on, but maybe I missed it. But I do second the motion as I understood it to be an approval.
I believe I didn't have my microphone close enough, but it was on. So I
I
did
hear you
move
much better.
both cases.
Thank you. I second.
Motion for approval by member Knapp and a second by member Cardin. Rosalie?
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. I want to clarify it's member Clapp, not Knapp, who made the motion. All right, move on to the regular agenda. Item number 6, TU 2023-014. Turn that over to staff.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. Case TU 2023-014 is a request by the property owners Michelle and Sean Hawley to store their commercial vehicle inside an enclosed shop in Supervisor District 5. The case was requested to be continued to today's hearing in order for staff to meet with the applicant's counsel and to enter a compliance agreement. On May 9th, staff and county council met with the property owners and their legal counsel to come to terms with a compliance agreement were agreed upon regarding the existing violation, which allows the property owners to move forward with this request, TU 2023-014, with staff support. Staff will recommend conditions that the non-accessory vehicle greater than 10,000 pounds will not be stored parked on site unless it is unloaded, except for items directly related to on-site agricultural operations, and that the vehicle not be parked, stored within any easement or right-of-way on adjacent or to the subject parcel. Staff has closed violation as the property owner's legal counsel confirmed the accessory dwelling is used solely for agricultural worker housing and therefore is part of agricultural exempt use from the county zoning authority. For the reasons outlined in this report, staff recommends the board motion to approve TU 2023-014 subject to conditions A through J. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Great presentation. Are there any questions of staff at this time by any board member? Seeing none, go ahead and open a public hearing. And is the applicant or applicant's representative here?
Mr. Chairman, while they're coming down, council has advised member Clapp that since she wasn't here when this case started the hearing, that she's not to participate in the discussion or the vote. Just this item, yes. You still have a quorum.
Go ahead, if you could, please give us your name
Michelle Hawley.
and go ahead with your,
I believe,
Presentation.
oh, you still have the link. So you kind of covered the location of where we live. What we're requesting is to just park our semi truck on our property in an enclosed shop. It's never been loaded. It doesn't bring any material in or any material out. And as you can see by the map on slide 2, there are several semis in our neighborhood. I mean, to the tune of maybe 15, 16 of them. Pretty simple request. We don't, like I said, bring anything in or out. There's semis to the north, to the south. You can see the green thumbs up marks on my map of those that have signed either petitions or letters stating that they don't have a problem with the semi parking there. And it is kept in an enclosed shop. We are agricultural exempt, and I breed miniature Appaloosa horses and we raise cattle. So on occasion, we do use the semi to bring in either cattle or dairy bales, but that's about the extent of it. Any other time it would be empty and just parking in the shop. If there had been a time that it would have been loaded, we have utilized the TA truck stop, but for that reason, we just don't want to leave it over there empty because of the vandalism and not knowing what's going on, but it never comes to our property loaded. It's always empty. On slide, next slide. Those are just the semis around the neighborhood, to the north, to the south, to the west, and next slide is directly to our south. That should be a video of, this is actually the complainant's property of a semi pulling in to their property, and we are direct neighbors of them. So clearly, there's no issues with a semi coming onto their property, but they don't like the one that's parking on our property. And that's just a quick short video of them pulling in. And this happens about every January. They have one that comes that stays for a couple of months. Next slide, please. There we go. Again, this is the complainant's property. Here they have 2 semis on their property. I'm just going to show you that it's not an issue for anybody else's, but the complainant's making an issue of the one that's parked at our residence. Next slide is directly across the street from us. They also have a semi that's parked out front. This is just pretty much the neighborhood of, you know, it's not a problem until it is a problem. That's why we're here to request the TUP, and in the process, we would be also moving forward with a special use permit for longer parking there. Again, this is just, it's always empty. It's never full. It's just a simple request to park it in our enclosed shop. So that's all I've got.
No worries at all.
Yeah.
Are there any questions of the applicant from any of the board members? All right. Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? I have no speaker request cards. Nobody in the audience. David, is there anyone online?
Yes, I have Carrie Hirschberg. She is unmuted and wishes to speak.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Carrie.
can you hear me? Hi, thank you. Hi, my name's Carrie Hirschberg. As Ms. Holly stated, we are the direct neighbors. We live in an equine community, not a trucking community. All the trucks that you did see were used for RV recreational vehicles, and those were for equine purposes. Now, to talk about this issue, I've kind of been through this process before, thanks to the Hollies. So I've kind of learned the permit process. since I've been through it myself, and the Hollies have not been following any protocols. So their semi tractor trailer has been parked on their property through this entire process. So they have not been respecting the county at all. And you know, they've been through several violations. I know a few have miraculously been closed. But they're requesting a temporary use permit, I believe. So while I'm a little confused, I don't know why they're requesting a temporary use permit, because they haven't even applied for a special use permit. So when I was told the only way I could get a temporary use permit was if I had already applied for a special use permit, and that was so I could carry on with business while I'm going through the long, tedious process of a special use permit, which does take 6 months to a year. They have not applied for that at all. And why I'm bringing this up is because that means they haven't cut the county a check for $10,000 for their special use permit. So that's a big deal. They haven't started that process at all. It's a long process. So what you're going to find is that they're going to, if they get awarded the temporary use permit, okay, so they have 6 months to park their semi there. Well, guess what? Now what's going to happen is the time's going to run out, and they're not going to be anywhere near their special use permit deadline for all the hearings and everything. And they're going to keep parking their semi there. So they've been violators for a very, very long time. They expect everyone else to follow the county code but themselves. And they don't have the proper ingress and egress for the semi. In my opposition letter, I posted links, YouTube links showing that their truck blocks the road for several minutes at a time while they are trying to get it into their property. They use several cross streets. They block it. It's dangerous. They're blocking where 4 houses live, our property, and the neighbor's property directly across from us. And we have access going into the state land over there. So this is a busy street. It is an equine community with everybody riding their horses, ropers going up and down the street all day long. And they don't have the proper ingress and egress to have this commercial semi truck and trailer business right there. Thank you.
Is that the end of your comments?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions of the speaker by any board member? Seeing none, we'll move on to David. Is there anyone else?
I'm not aware of anyone else.
All right, go ahead and close the public hearing then. And moving on to discussion amongst the board members and or a motion. This particular one is in District 5.
And I would like to make a motion, please.
Go
Chairman
ahead,
Loper?
Member Ward.
Thank you. I would like to approve based on the findings in number 35 outlined by staff A through J.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval by Member Ward. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Cardin. Rosalie, would you go ahead and do roll call?
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 3-0.
Congratulations.
No, you didn't ask our new member.
These are continued cases. There's several
Oh,
more.
sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
The original hearing. No worries. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, BA 2023-009, Eli property, which is a continued case.
And Mr. Chairman, this is the same issue since this case was heard before. Member Clapp will be recusing herself.
Okay.
Chairman Loper, members of the board, agenda item 7 is for subject case BA 2023-009. A variance request for an RE43 zone property was continued from the April 13 BOA hearing. Approving this revised request would allow for a proposed rear yard coverage of 36% for a detached accessory building within the required rear yard, where the maximum coverage is 30%, to allow for the relocation of a permitted but unbuilt combined pool, cabana, detached garage, and covered patio structure. Next slide, please. The original permit for this detached structure was issued in June of 2022 at a rear yard coverage of 29.9%, just under the 30% maximum, and with a rear and side yard setback of 7.2 feet. Next slide. Subsequently, the applicants applied for the subject variance request in March, proposing a 41% rear yard lot coverage. At the April Board of Adjustment hearing, the board granted a continuance to work with staff to see if there were solutions on reworking the proposed structure to better fit the lot. Through this process, the applicant decided to adjust the building to now take up 35.5% of lot coverage within the rear yard, a difference of approximately 362 square feet. Next slide, please. Staff would note the efforts made by the applicant to revise the proposed structure to closer meet the existing standards for rear lot coverage. However, the applicant must still meet statutory tests for variance approval, and it fails to do so. Next slide. Therefore, staff is recommending denial on BA 2023-009 for the following reasons. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that there is a peculiar condition facing the property because the lot is compliant with Rural 43 lot standards and is not encumbered by topographical constraints such as hillside or flood conditions. And the applicant has failed to demonstrate that the strict application of the Maricopa County Zoning Ordinance to the applicant's property has caused undue physical hardship that prevents the development of the property. The owners have already received the permit for the same structure, but in a slightly more northern location. The applicant also has other options to comply with the ordinance, such as building a smaller structure or redesign the structure to be less within the rear setback. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Good presentation. Any questions? Understood. Thank you, Wayne. Are there any questions of staff by any of the board members? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and turn it over to the applicant. Please give your name for the record and go ahead.
Chairman Loper, my name is Greg Siped. I was present during the last hearing in April. You might recall other members of the board. I think I remember seeing at least one of you, but Vice Chair is not here today. She was present during the last discussion and had several questions that she asked regarding positioning the proposed buildings slightly in a different direction on further toward the street and out of the rear yard, and we answered those questions. Following which, we agreed to continue the hearing, as the board may recall, because of the suggestion that we enter into compromise negotiations with staff. As Mr. Landis has just referenced, we did attempt to make some headway in regard to an agreement with staff on something that might be approved, but we're unable to do so. And I'll explain the reasons why as part of my presentation today. We did move, as staff member Landis mentioned, shrink the amount of space that we're looking to increase the maximum building envelope by. Initially, we had asked for, and this is, you can go to the first slide on this. We were seeking 41.25. This is the original approved drawing shown on the first slide. It's not to scale, and this is what the county approved. The problem with that is, if you go to the next slide, this slide is the same as the first, but it shows the actual encroachment of the pool cabana support, roof support column on the walkway that goes behind the rock grotto, behind the pool area there. And so the vice chairperson, I can't remember her last name, Heather Persone, had asked whether we could shift the building envelope forward toward the pool to remove it from the rear lot area. We explored that option with my client, Mr. Ernie Ely's contractor. Well, I'm sorry, I failed to mention he's standing here to my left. This is my client. the applicant. We broached the subject with the contractor, but because of the existing pool and rock grotto walkway you can see there on the highlighted section just north of the proposed building structures, it is, if we were to shift the buildings forward, it would encroach even more onto that pool deck and walkway area, and we'd have to demo a significant amount of existing pavers, pool area, pool walkway. It just isn't feasible to do that. And then also, it would shrink the other suggestion by Vice Chairperson Person was that we maybe move the structures forward in a northerly direction to increase the rear yard burden. The problem with that is, of course, the same. Can't do that because of the encroachment issue, but also can't shrink the buildings themselves because the equipment that that I mentioned during the last hearing that my client is looking to park in there is a 42-foot RV that he uses in his business to pull a 30-foot stacker trailer. They're in the business of off-roading, and they have these machinery that they haul and store off-site for safety and theft reasons on his own personal property. Those are designated to go in those buildings. Obviously, the pool cabana area is more recreational, but they figured they'd kill two birds with one stone and build them all together there in the backyard. So this drawing here shows that as permitted, there's a 3-foot overlap. If we go to the next slide. So this drawing shows the initial request was for 41.25%, 11.25% over the buildable rear yard maximum that is allowed by statute. We've since gone into compromise negotiations, which is also 692.88 square feet. We're not talking about a whole bunch of building, just a very small amount of building. But on the board's recommendations, we met with staff and tried to come up with a compromise. So if we go to the next slide, the compromise was that we shift the proposed building to the south by 4.2 feet, which gives now 1.2 feet of space between where the support column would have encroached on the walkway, and moves the building back only slightly, about half of what we were seeking before, for a total of 35.5% instead of 41.25% rear yard burden. And that's only 334 square feet. So we've cut that in half in an attempt to compromise with staff on that issue. If we go to the next slide. So this shows the original location of the support column. The tape measure shows where it would have landed on the walkway just south of the rock grotto. Next slide. That's another picture of where it would land versus where the patio ends. Next slide. There are several photos in the packet that are taken to show and illustrate where the county approved drawings would have placed the slab for the structure. This is one of those. This is 15 foot from the rear southwest wall of the property, and that's according to the county approved drawings. Next slide. This one is taken from that same location. You see the tape measure there. It's facing eastward. You can see behind my client's rear property wall, there is a structure built up right against the wall there from the south neighbors in their backyard. Next slide. This is showing the same direction, just a different rendition, showing a little bit clearer the structures that are built right up against the wall on the south neighbor's property. Next slide. Same, clear picture of the same thing. Next slide. Okay, this is facing to the southwest. That's the southwest neighbor's property, and it also shows the common well that's built behind that south wall there. Neither one of those properties would be facing the construction, the proposed construction. And all have voiced approval. All the neighbors have voiced approval. There are no standouts or objecting parties to the construction. Next slide. Okay, this is taken from the other side, looking west. So we're standing roughly about where the south neighbors' structures are built up against the wall, looking the other direction toward the west, where the the proposed construction will be. You can see the west side neighbor's toy hauler behind their wall. It's parked there all the time. And you can also see my client's stacker trailer, which will be enclosed inside the building and out of public view. So it'll be a little bit better view from the neighbor's perspective. Next slide. That's a picture up against the west wall of the neighbor's toy hauler on the other side of the wall there. Next slide. So this is standing where the building would be located. We are just west of the pool, looking southeast toward the back corner on the south neighbor's property. No view blockage from any neighbor's vantage point from there. And as I mentioned, they've also all voiced unanimous approval for the rear yard burden to be increased from 30 to 35.5. Next slide. Okay, these are the next few slides are several aerial views of properties that are adjacent to my client's property. On this one, you can see they all basically have the same type of rear yard use. This one has several structures built right up against the wall in the rear yard, which is the top side of the picture there. You can see, and the residence is located to the bottom. Next slide. Similar condition there. You have a very large, in the bottom left corner of the picture, very large structures built in the rear yard, right up against the wall, both the side wall and the rear wall of the property. Next slide. Similar condition here. Structures built in the rear yard that basically take up most of the buildable envelope, if not more than the buildable envelope, according to the county statute regulations. Next slide. Similar condition here, down to the bottom right-hand corner, very large utility building there, where another one of my client's neighbors stores their equipment, just like he would be doing. Next slide. Okay. And this one is a picture of my neighbor's property. You can see it's in the center of the picture, my client's property, in the center of the page, just over toward the right-hand side. And then you can see the neighbor to the west with the toy hauler parked up against the wall, the south neighbor, southwest neighbor at the bottom of the picture. And so they're all very similar properties with structures built in the rear yards. None have voiced any objection to the proposed construction. Next slide. That was it. Okay, so that concludes our presentation. We would respectfully request that, given the efforts that have been made over several months in time seeking the variance and trying to comply with and coordinate with staff on getting an approval that we meet the requirements or as close as possibly there to it, but also allow my client to be able to use his property for the intended purposes, we respectfully request approval of the variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions by any of the board members for the applicant?
Chairman
Member
Ledford. Yes, thank you for that presentation. Just curious, is the structure being built the minimum needed to store the, I think you said it was a stacker, is the vehicle that he's storing?
So lengthwise, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, lengthwise. Okay. Thank you.
So, and just to clarify, Mr. Cardin, so it's a 42-foot RV and then a 30-foot stacker trailer. And then my client is in the business of off-road suspension improvement for side-by-sides. I don't know if you're familiar or not, but desert vehicles, race vehicles, that type. The name of the company is Shock Therapy. It's a well-known company, but they can't store their equipment on site because it's over in the Deer Valley Air Park area, and there's a lot of theft and vandalism and whatnot over there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Cardin. Anyone else have any questions? I have a question of you and then potentially of staff. So the overage is 334 square feet. What's the threshold for getting a permit? Isn't it 400 square feet? Or I know there's more to it, but generally speaking, no?
Mr. Chairman, a detached accessory structure of 200 square feet or fewer.
200.
A non-habitable structure, shorter than 12 feet or single story, no mechanical, structural, no mechanical, plumbing, or electric, not in a drainage way, not in a retention basin. Those would not require a construction permit. They do require to meet zoning and drainage requirements, codes, but they do not have to come in for an actual.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience? This is a public hearing that wishes to speak on this item? I don't have any speaker request cards. All right, seeing none. David, is there anyone online who wishes to speak?
We're not aware of anyone online.
All right, hang tight. There may be more questions. I'm go ahead and close the public hearing and turn it over to the board for discussion and or a motion.
Chairman Loper, this is
My district.
District 4. Any thoughts you'd care to share? And if not, I'm prepared to make a motion.
A couple in favor of small business, home occupations. Glad to see that you're successful, by evidence by a 42-foot RV. And given the character of the area, I don't think that it's out of place. I appreciate that you worked with staff. I know they have certain limitations, and I appreciate Joel and Darren and Rachel, all of you working with them, trying to come up to it's a better situation than what was originally proposed. It's not ideal. I do personally support it. Those are my thoughts. Member
Thank
Cardin?
you. Then I move that we approve BA 2023009.
We have a motion for approval by Member Cardin. Is there a second?
Second?
And a second by Member Ward. Rosalie?
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 3-0.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate the
you.
consideration and your efforts.
Mr. Chairman, for the property owner's benefit, I would ask him to review the use regulations of Chapter 5 regarding Rural 43 zoning and home-based businesses, because you're limited to a single vehicle. It needs to be less than 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight stored indoors. I just want to make sure there's 16 parameters, and I'm just saying that so you don't end up with a zoning violation someday if a neighbor complains.
Noted. Thank you.
Didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
No, you're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Move on to the next item on the agenda, item number 8, BA 2023014, Desert Palms Presbyterian Church. This is also continued from last month.
Mr. Chairman, in this case, since there was no actual, no, I'm sorry. We did not present this case, so there's no reason that Member Clapp can't participate.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. All right, go ahead and turn it over. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Loper and members of the board. Agenda item number 8 is for subject case BA 2023014, which is a variance request in the R17 zoned property located at 13459 West Stardust Boulevard in the Sun City area in Supervisor District 4. Next slide, please. As written in the staff report, approving this request would have the effect of allowing a 0-foot side sign setback on the west of the parcel where a 20-foot sign setback is the minimum permitted. Next slide, please. The subject lot was created as part of the Sun City Master Plan development and received formal zoning approval in September of 1978. The current church complex was built on the site in late 1990. A building permit for the current digital sign that is in use was approved on September 1st, 2011. Staff is recommending denial on BA 2023014 as the applicant has failed to demonstrate that the strict application of the MCZO to the applicant's property has caused undue physical hardship that prevents the reasonable further development of the property. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record that the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in a motion to grant the relief sought. At this time, I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. Are there any questions of staff by any of the board members? No from Member Clapp. No nods of no from the other board members. Go ahead and Open the public hearing. Is the applicant or applicant's representative in attendance? Come on up and provide your name for the record, please.
My name is there a button? Can you hear me?
Just pull it towards you, I think.
Can you hear me now? Oh, there we go. My name is Amanda Larson, and I'm the sign company representing them. Desert Palms Presbyterian Church would like to move their sign closer to the property line and out from behind. There's an existing utility box and a bunch of palm trees that currently affect the visibility of the sign. The sign is moving farther away from the intersection where all of the traffic lights are, and it's moving farther away from the closest homes. So we're getting it even farther from homes nearby. Engineering, environmental does not have any concerns, nor does fire. So, and we have a PowerPoint presentation. So I wanted to show you exactly where, this existing sign is located. So you can see in the photos, the one that's from corner of Stardust and 135th looking south. You can see they have an existing triangle sign that you can, sort of see, but it sits so far back and it's right next to the church that it kind of, hinders the visibility of the church and then hinders the visibility of the sign. So, so you can see all the different directions here, and then go to the next slide. So you can see here all of the palm trees, everything blocking the visibility, the trees, the bushes. We are looking to make the sign base at least 3 feet tall to cover that bush and to move it out so it can be seen from both directions when driving by. And as you can see, it is going farther away from those houses across the street. There are no houses to the west. There are only houses to the north. And so we're going to be moving more farther south from those homes. So that's all I have. I don't think there's another. Can you go? Is there another? Yeah, this is just an overview of what's already been submitted. So.
Right. Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions by any board members? Member Cardin.
Chairman Loper, thank you. Just a quick question. Obviously, well, I think one of the main reasons for sign placement is safety. It appears that you're putting the sign kind of far enough away from pulling from the access to the property as well as from the intersection that it doesn't appear from my perspective to be a safety issue, but I just wanted to know if you could comment on that at all. What focus has been given to the safety aspect of where the sign will be placed?
So it still sits, the property line still sits quite a distance away from the street, the sidewalk. So their property line already sits about 20 feet back from the street. So there's not really any traffic hazards. And yeah, the current sign sits so close to the church and so close to that intersection to meet that original 20-foot setback that I do believe moving it out of that intersection is going to create less of a traffic hazard than what's currently there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Cardin. Member Clapp, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. And this is related to visibility. It would, as a layman looking at this, appear to me that the sign, when you move it to the new location, would lessen the visibility from 135th. Why would you not try to find a way to keep the sign closer to the corner so it's visible from both streets?
So with that, we thought it would be more of a hazard to ask for a 0 setback from the corner, because then we would be sitting really close to the intersection. And where it's at right now, it's a 20-foot from 135th and 20-foot from Stardust. So with that measurement, that's where the sign had to go. It had to sit behind the church and right next to the church. So if we were to move it closer to Stardust and closer to 135th, we would be right in the path of where all the traffic lights are.
How much distance is it from the sign right now to the property line.
To the property line, 20 feet is the current sign's 20 feet in all directions from the property line.
So but you're going to go to a 0.
Now we want to go 0 from 130 or 135th. So we're going to be better visibility off 135th, less visible off of,
Yeah, it'd be less visible on the other street.
yeah, the other street. Let me pull up my map real quick.
So
and make
that's my
sure.
question is, why would you not try to move this sign maybe slightly forward from where it is right now? You could remove a tree or something and move it just a little bit forward, but then the sign would be visible from both streets.
So we definitely could look at that. If you think that that would be an approval, we were just nervous that if we didn't move it farther from the intersection, and so we're going from Stardust and 135th like this. We're coming farther down 135th away from Stardust, which kind of sounds like we are trying to make it more visible off 135th and away from Stardust, but we're still leaving it at a little bit of an angle. And the way these LEDs are portrayed, they're 160 degrees, so you can still see it from Stardust. We just decided that 135th is a better road to put it on because it's away from the intersection.
The current sign and LED sign?
Yes.
Okay, is it going to be the same sign or do you have a new sign?
It's going to be, we're not keeping the existing sign, we're getting rid of that. So it's going to be a new sign, but still an LED digital screen.
The same size?
It's a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So it's not overall bigger. So like we're still keeping the square feet that the county allows. We're just reorganizing it.
Okay.
So we're still, at the max height. We're not asking for anything additional with that.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Darren.
Chairman Loper, I can't hear Darren.
I apologize. I did not have my speaker on.
Thank you.
From the street corner itself, there's a 25-foot by 25-foot clear sight visibility triangle. And within that clear sight visibility triangle, no structures or landscaping can be over 2 feet. So the sign would need to be outside of that. They could request variances to setbacks. Staff would not be supportive of a variance to the clear sight triangle.
Thank you, Darren. I was going to ask a question about that, but I wasn't clear on the measurement. Is that measured property line to property line or from edge of curb to edge of curb?
So from the right-of-way lines, the street lines, you would draw, you would carry forward the plane to where they meet. And from that point of intersection, for lack of a better word, you would measure back 25 feet. And from those points, you would draw the line creating the triangle. And so within that triangle, which part of that's going to be, part of it's going to be on the grass or rock, that's where you keep everything below 2 feet. And well,
No, I was just going to ask, and so there's no credit or allowance for unused right-of-way because that right-of-way could be expanded at some point
that is
or
correct.
taken away, I guess.
It's measured from this, what we call the street line, which is the right-of-way, the existing right-of-way, unless there's a known ultimate right-of-way. And also there's another sign on Stardust. So I believe this is the 135th Avenue sign.
Question of the applicant, is that correct? There's an existing sign that faces Stardust that's remaining, that's not part of this?
Yes, it just is like an old monument that came with when they did the church originally. It's just like a brick base that says Desert Palm Presbyterian Church that is remaining. And so technically per code, you're allowed to have one sign per entrance.
And then do you know your new location or the proposed location, what that distance is from the site visibility triangle that
So
described?
can you go to the PowerPoint again and the last page? It gives us a measurement. I believe it's 50 feet, so it would be 25 feet away. So yeah, so from the sidewalk curb, we are going to be placing the sign 50 feet. So we are 25 feet additional out of that visibility triangle.
But the visibility triangle is not from the curb, which I was unclear on earlier. It's actually from the property line. But as part of your review of it, that's not an issue.
Correct. The current application for the sign is not in the visibility triangle.
Clarification, the visibility triangle starts at the property line. I thought it starts at the driveway.
Yeah, Yeah.
There are site visibility triangles at street corners and at commercial driveway intersections. So we draw the plane of the line of the two streets, or the street and the what we consider to be the edge of the driveway. So it's a little more liberal, a little more lenient on the driveway.
Yeah, so technically we still are 25, we'd be at least 25 feet more than the required corner setback.
And then know this but don't. By the lane striping, Stardust is I don't know if it's considered an arterial or collector, but that's a local street. The adjacent one, correct? That pretty reasonable?
I believe 135th is a minor collector, and Stardust is either a major collector or a minor arterial.
Okay. Just trying to pre-guess if there would be an expansion of that in the future. I don't know. That's outside of my expertise. All right. Any other questions of the applicant? All right. Go ahead, hang close. May have some more for you. As I mentioned, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none. David, is there anyone online who wishes to speak?
I'm not aware of anyone online.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll turn it over to the board for discussion and possible motion. This is also in District 4. I would say that given the constraints of the vision triangle, the existing utility box, landscaping, there do appear to be some rationale for wanting to keep that further down the road, further from Stardust, but pushing it to the west. Don't oppose this variance. Well, let's see if someone else wants to make a motion. Member Cardin.
Chairman Loper, I move that we approve BA 2023014.
We have a motion for approval by Member Cardin. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Member Ward. Rosalie, would you please take roll call vote?
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations. All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, number 9, which is BA 2023-016, the DeWolf property. Nick, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Loper, members of the board. Case BA 2023-016 is a request to reduce the east side yard setback on the DeWolf property to 22 feet where 30 feet is the minimum required. Next slide, please. So the property is located at 42002 North Fleming Springs Road in the Cave Creek area. This is a rural 190 parcel featuring a single family residence. And as you can see, the site is just north of the Cave Creek town limits and is accessible from Fleming Springs Road by way of an ingress-egress easement. Next slide, please. So this home was originally built in 1979 and the current owners are in the process of remodeling, for which a building permit is under review. One of the proposed changes is a 1,485 square foot addition to the east side of the home, most of which would be used as a 3-car garage. This garage would encroach 7 feet 2 inches into the required east side yard. And as the applicant notes, much of the northern portion of the parcel is rendered non-buildable due to a wash and its surrounding erosion areas. Furthermore, there is already an existing garage on the east side of the home, and the floor plan layout is optimized to accommodate any garage additions on this side of the home. Next slide, please. And here's a close-up of the site plan. You can see the planned addition encroaching just over 7 feet into the east side yard. Next slide, please. So once again, here's an aerial of the subject parcel. While there are no designated hillside areas with slopes exceeding 15%, you can see that there are topographical features which limit development opportunities. Most significant, as noted earlier, is the embankment just north of the home, which slopes toward the floodway. There is also gentle sloping to the south and west of the home. Southwest of the home, although as you can see, this hasn't prevented the development of various accessory structures, including a detached carport. That having been said, the owners do appear to have viable options for building a garage without encroaching on the existing setbacks. One option would be to reduce the size of the garage extension until it fits entirely within the lot's buildable area. Per staff analysis, this could be done while still accommodating room for 2 cars. Another option would be to build a detached garage elsewhere on the property, albeit within the lot's buildable area. Despite gentle to moderate sloping on the property, the existence of other accessory structures suggests this is feasible. Staff notes that no public comment has been received on this request. So based upon what the applicant has submitted and the staff analysis, staff finds that the request fails to meet the statutory test for variance approval. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in a motion to grant the relief sought. In such event, staff would offer the following to memorialize the variance approval. Item A, variance approval establishes a 22-foot east setback line for APN 216-16019M. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Great presentation. Are there any questions of staff at this time by any of the board members? I don't see anybody with their hand up or shaking yes, so we'll move on and open the public hearing. Is the applicant or applicant's representative here? Come on up and provide your name and then go forward with your presentation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shane DeWolf. I'm the owner of the property at 42002 North Fleming Springs Road. My family of 5 has owned the property for approximately 18 months. We looked for a property in the height of the housing crunch here in Phoenix that would allow us to live that rural lifestyle and be able to commute to work here in Phoenix. Unfortunately, with the house being built in 1979, the builder left little room for expansion in accordance with the current zoning ordinances due to the wash and overall topography of the property in relation to the original build site. As you can see by the graphic, the lot has very unique lot dimensions, as well as the east easement, which we had trouble even finding in the tax records. The building orientation that we proposed puts only the corner of the 3-car garage into the setback, which would basically be a 12 by 12 triangle. And that would give approximately 225 feet of setback from the road and much further to the eastern neighbors. The 2-car garage proposed would not allow us to park our vehicles inside of that garage. As a rural property, our vehicles, I've got a 1-ton dually that I haul horse trailers and hay and everything else. And with the current size of a 2-car garage that was proposed, we would definitely need the 3-car garage for farm equipment as well as our vehicles. The property as well, with a detached garage, the sloping areas of the property and the topography would make additional permitting required for additional driveways as well as drainage if we were to look at having a 3-car garage that was usable for our family. When we spoke to the county planner about how we'd like to proceed, they urged us to try and apply for a variance as a viable option with what we were looking to do with the property to maintain the rural aspect of the property and not add additional buildings. With that, looking for consideration for the request for a variance and to allow the reduced setbacks on the east side of the property to allow for the 3-car garage build. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Member Cardin.
Chairman Loper, thank you. Just a quick question. Have you had any conversations with the property owner to the east of you on that southeastern portion of you? It looks like there's the road that kind of goes up there. And so although there is a property owner there, it appears that anything west of that road there, so east of you, west of the road, is probably not usable for anything buildable or anything, but just curious if you had any conversations with that neighbor.
Yes, sir, we have. The owner on the east side, they don't intend to use anything on the west side of that Fleming Springs Road. It's basically unusable to them, and they understand the predicament we're in with the original building being so close to the eastern boundary of our property. With that easement is kind of a mystery to everyone that's on the east side of our property with our neighbors. It's that postage stamp lot to the east that they don't understand how that even came to be in the development, honestly. But they don't have any issues with the addition of the garage.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant by any other board members? All right, seeing none, is there anyone, I don't have any speaker request cards. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this particular item? David, is there anyone online that you're aware of?
We're not aware of anyone, Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. Go ahead and close the public hearing and turn this over to board members for discussion and or a motion. This is in District 2.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve this case BA 2023-016.
We have a motion to approve by member Clapp. Is there a second? Second by member Cardin. Rosalie, when you get an opportunity, please do the roll call vote.
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes,
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time. Move on to the next item on the agenda item number 10, which is BA 2023-023, the Herman property in District 1. Joseph, Joe, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Case BA 2023-023 is for the Herman property in District 1. Next slide, please. Located at 14014 East Cedar Waxing Drive in the Chandler area within the Rural 43 zoning district. Next slide, please. The case includes two requests. First, a proposed rear accessory structure setback of 16 inches. And second, a proposed rear yard coverage of 47%. Next slide, please. The purpose of the request is to allow for an existing pole barn to receive as-built building permits. The existing structure first appeared in aerial photos in 2006, almost a decade before the applicant obtained the property. Next slide, please. The applicant has expressed that they were not aware of the non-conforming nature of the structure when they obtained the property and that relocating the structure would not be feasible. Next slide, please. One area resident reached out to staff in regards to the case, but had no concern after she found out the requests were for an existing structure. Next slide, please. With that said, staff has found that the applicant failed to demonstrate that there is a peculiar condition facing the property as the subject lot is relatively flat and of regular shape. There are several places on the property that a structure of the same size could be placed and comply with all zoning requirements. The applicant has not demonstrated applying the requirements of the zoning ordinance to this property that has these peculiar conditions, and hardship exists because the structure could be relocated on the site to comply with all zoning ordinance requirements. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that the peculiar condition is not self-created in line of title because the structure was erected without permit by previous property owner. If the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, staff offers the following to memorialize approval. Variance approval establishes a 16-inch north setback line for an accessory pole barn on APN 304-82467, and variance approval allows up to 47% rear yard coverage by an accessory structure for APN 304-82467. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any questions of staff? Member Cardin.
Chairman Loper, thank you. Just a couple. First of all, I read in paragraph 10 of the staff report that the previous violation case for the structure was closed by staff without compliance. I'm just curious. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. How does that come to be? If there is an answer.
Mr. Chairman, board members, that case was opened by staff. I'm not aware of the history right now, other than that was a staff-generated violation, and we are a reactive policing agency and respond to written citizen complaints. And that's why that case was closed. It was closed with the note that the site is not compliant, but we have not received a citizen complaint at this time.
I see. Thank you. And so then just to understand, in the chain of title, this structure was built before, as I understand it, before the current owners took ownership. And so if this was declined and they were going to be in compliance, in essence, this pole barn would have to be either demolished or at least significantly reduced in size and pulled away from that southern lot line, just to be in compliance. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Member Cardone, that is correct. The pole barn would either have to be relocated, removed, or reduced in size.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Member Clapp.
Yeah, along that line, I'm assuming then that issue that was internal was never recorded anywhere, so it would not show up in the title search. Is that correct?
See the county attorney shaking. Oh, sorry, Darren. Go ahead.
Not be a title search you would have to reach out to the department.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's my only question.
Thank you. I don't recall and don't have a staff report in front of me, but was there any comment from drainage review on the proximity to that rear setback and the slope of the roof and any issues with runoff potentially going to the other property?
Chairman Loper, drainage engineering had no issue with the requested variance.
And do you know, or does anyone know if the complaint or how it was turned in had anything to do with runoff? Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, two things to follow up. The only time there would be a title search would come up with a violation is if it has already been adjudicated through the hearing officer, and then we record a notice of violation if they fail to meet that deadline. But just because staff has verified a violation, we do not record anything. My understanding is at this time, this violation was probably staff generated due to zoning review of a previous permit or something along those lines, because we used to be proactive only if we saw something during zoning clearance for the property. But we have to streamline work programs and to be more user friendly. We've stopped that now. We just try and put people on without opening the case.
I've never found anybody at the county to not be user friendly, so done a good job. All right, any other questions of staff at this time? And seeing no speakers or persons interested in the project that want to speak on something, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and turn this over to board members for discussion and or motion. This is in District 1.
Chairman Loper, I would move that we approve.
I skipped the applicant because we got kind of sideways. Does the applicant want to speak at this point? Brevity, that's good. Go ahead, Member Cardin.
I was going to say I kind of showed my hand, so probably a good move. Let's see. I move that we approve BA 2023-023.
We have a motion for approval by Member Cardin.
Second.
And a second by Member Clapp. She just beat you, Fern. Rosalie, would you go ahead and take roll call?
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations, and I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to put together what I'm sure was a great PowerPoint presentation for all of us. Move to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 12, which is TU 2023-019, Grant Caretaker's Quarter.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. The property owner's representative, Rose Navarrete, is requesting a temporary use permit to extend the use of an existing RV as temporary caretaker's quarters located at 26006 South 204th Street in the Queen Creek area. The site is zoned RU43 and is approximately 1.16 acres in Supervisor District 1. As part of the temporary use application, the applicant has provided a letter from Banner Health Medical Center dated February 9th, 2022, that identifies a resident requires assistance from a caregiver. The previous TUP request was limited to 1 year due to an open violation. Staff is of the opinion that the applicant has satisfied the requirements for MCZO Article 1302.2.5 regarding temporary caretaker's quarters. The only opposition against the case focused on the non-temporary use of the RV, as this will be the third application filed for the same request by the applicant. According to department records, the RV has been used as temporary quarters since 2017. The same opposition memo also outlined concerns regarding the violations for unpermitted construction on the property, which have now been resolved. Due to the opposition received, the case is referred to the Board of Adjustment for determination. If no opposition had been received during the 10-day public notice period, this application would have been administratively approved with a validity period of 2 years. Reviewing county agencies do not have any objections to this request. Staff requests rather that the board consider an annual status report as a condition of approving this temporary use permit in lieu of the 2-year validity date. The annual status report should detail the status of the condition that requires the temporary use permit be submitted to the department. This will help the department determine whether the conditions for issuing the TUP are maintained for the TUP to remain valid, rather than having the applicant reapply every 2 years, as the condition requiring the use of the caretaker's quarters may still be applicable by that time. For the reasons outlined in the report, staff recommends approval of TU 2023-019 with conditions A through E. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Great presentation, Daniel. Appreciate your comments. Are there any questions of staff at this time? Seeing none, go ahead and open the public hearing and seek the applicant or applicant representative. Come on up to the podium. If you have anything you'd like to add.
Okay, the reason that we need this is because.
Go ahead and provide your name, please.
Oh, sorry, Rose Navarrete. Both of our parents, one just, I don't know who I give this to, was just diagnosed with dementia. And we need someone full-time there because he's starting to get out of the house at night. It's just a whole thing. We can't afford to put them in anywhere, or put him, our father. So we need someone there, and that's the only way we can do it. We know it's only temporary, and we're looking for something more permanent, because I know we can have another dwelling on the property, but we just can't do it right now. We need that time as siblings to figure out what we're going to do and to come up with the funds to put something permanent for someone to be there as long as they're both still here.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Any of the board members? Seeing none, hang tight. We may have other questions. And is the person standing next to you, Andrea? Okay. They have a speaker request card from you saying you wish to speak, so feel free if you'd like.
Yeah, Andrea Bryant. Just as she was stating that it first started with our mother, and it ended up needing the extended time because now it is our father with a new diagnosis. And with COVID hitting, we weren't able to do anything financially permanent. And during COVID, both of them got it really, really bad. So it kind of put us behind. So all of us siblings are now trying to work together to get it.
Understood. We could all be there at one point. So God bless you and your family. Any questions of the speaker? All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item?
I'm sorry, I have a question of the speaker.
Oh, go right ahead. Sorry, Fern.
I didn't hit unmute fast enough. I'm sorry. I was just looking at the person who is opposed, and they suggested looking up Betty's home on care.com, and it is listed on there at this address. Can you explain that?
That it is
That-
what?
That was old, and I actually did that. It was old. That was an old thing, and we were trying to, someone said that they had it on there. She ended up being hacked, and we were trying to figure it out of what was going on care.com when I was trying to figure out. It ended up being a hacked account that I was trying to get into to see what was going on with it. And I tried to contact them, the administrative, and I think it ended up renewing or something. I still need to look into it, and I don't even know where I'm supposed to look at. I never ended up following through with it because I don't know. I don't even know, but it's some scams going on. I think what ended up happening is she clicked on like an email or something, is what I'm thinking. I don't know. She still has an AOL.com email, so I don't know what she clicks on in there. So yeah, I don't, I can't, I'm trying to do the research, but yeah, I don't know. So I
Okay.
do try to, like I said, I try to contact the admin myself, and I never got an email back. So I don't know how to get that off of there. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Is that sufficient, Fern?
It is. Thank you.
And I have a Hotmail email account, so I'm not far off there myself.
Oh my
And are there any other questions by any of the board members? Right? And no one in the audience? David, is there anyone online?
We're not aware of anyone online.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. This is in District 1.
Chairman Loper, thank you.
Yes,
I move that we approve TU 2023-019 subject to the recommendations of staff found in paragraph 20.
we have a motion for approval by Member Cardin and Member Ward. We have a second from her. Rosalie, if you go ahead and take the roll call vote.
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Good luck with your family. And Daniel and the rest of staff, I'm very appreciative of the way you did the stipulation to give them the time that they may need. Move on to the next item on the agenda. Item number 13, TU 2023-021, the Cazares property. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, TU 2023-021, the Casares property in District 5 is a temporary request permit for temporary events on 6 dates, all of which have already occurred, except for one tomorrow, scheduled for May 19th. For property at 16740 West Pioneer Street, the 2.2+ acre site in the Goodyear area. The zoning on the site is a Rule 43 with a special use permit for a small event venue approved under case Z 2019-024. However, the property is yet to be developed in accordance with the conditions of the SUP, and the ongoing operations have been a zoning violation. In that case, is V 2021-02065. They have recently employed a zoning firm to work on the special use permit, and it's our understanding, and their counsel will probably attest today, that after this May 19th event, they are going to cease and desist operations until such time as they have come into compliance with the conditions of the SUP approval or come into compliance with the conditions of an amended special use permit after public outreach. Based on that, staff is supportive of recommending approval of this single event to occur tomorrow on, as per paragraph 12, conditions A through Q. I will note that there is considerable opposition. There are at least 5 registered oppositions to this temporary use permit, as well as 6 different complaints that have been filed on the zoning violation. But those complainants, we always attempt to maintain the anonymity of zoning violation complainants, and therefore they are not attached to your packet. I'll also note you have a handout this morning where there were multiple sheriff's office calls out to this site for these previous 5 events that are part of this temporary use permit that have already occurred. And I believe that the people behind me are largely neighborhood residents that wish to speak today. I'm happy to try and answer any questions, but I think you got quite a few people here.
Thank you, Darren.
I have a
Absolutely.
question, Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Okay, in on the site analysis, I'm looking. Yes.
I'm
Can you
sorry,
hear
you
me?
probably didn't hear. The county attorney representative, Wayne Peck, asked for a 2-minute break to confer with staff. So we're going to take a quick 2-minute break and then we'll come back with questions of staff. That's all right with everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I should have repeated it.
I was confused.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We'll turn it back over to board member comments or questions of staff. Vern, you had something?
I do. This question is primarily for Mr. Peck, I think. In site analysis number 25, it says that this is a small event venue with a maximum of 15 guests, but yet I'm also seeing that 500 guests are up to 500 guests are attending. My question is, if we approve this, are we in any way liable if something happens, if more than 15 guests,
Mr. Chairman,
an accident or anything?
it's a typo.
Oh, Darren's saying it was a typo.
Their special permit has certain conditions on it, including a maximum of 150 guests.
150, okay, thank you.
For the record, they have never complied with the approved special use permit. Our department allows people to get temporary use permits for special events outside the scope of the approved entitlement. That's what we're doing. The zoning violation is a separate issue on a separate track.
Okay.
Right. That
Thank you.
answer your question?
Well, no,
Vern?
I guess it still doesn't answer my question. If, like you said, they never comply, but if it's 150 guests and they're having up to 500, are we in any way liable if we approve it, knowing that they have never gone by what it said in the past?
If I may clarify, I gave the background of their zoning entitlement, their SUP for background. The temporary use permit is not, this approval is saying they are not, they're not meeting the conditions of the special use permit. They're doing something else. They're having a special event, their temporary special event on May 19th. It's not part of that special use permit.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gerard is correct, but I'm not sure that answers Member Ward's question. No, we don't have liability because someone does something beyond that which the county has authorized them to do. If it were an ongoing situation that we knew about and didn't take a corrective action, there's some theories that could be advanced for liability. I would rather defend, as they say. So no, we would not expose ourselves to liability because you grant the temporary use permit for 150 and more than those show up and they let people in. Is that, if I understood your question?
Yeah, that is the question, but also I guess adding to it that knowingly in the past, they have not, it seems like we could possibly, if we approve tomorrow's event for 150, knowing that they have not gone along with the guidelines in the past, we are knowingly approving something that we know is not going to be followed.
Mr. Chairman, Member Ward, we don't know that. We suspect that. We won't know that until the code violation case is brought before a hearing officer who finds that. So at this point, there's the presumption that they aren't in violation until we prove it.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
A lawyer answer, I admit.
And Mr. Chairman, Member Ward, they do this is the TUP narrative. For the TUP narrative, it does say anticipated maximum attendance 150. We haven't necessarily stipulated to that, but in regard to unpermitted construction, a temporary use permit by ordinance will allow temporary structures erected per manufacturer specifications for a time period not exceeding 96 consecutive hours without any type of permit through us.
Like a tent, or
a
shade cover or something.
Yes. Other, yeah, but so that's all I can say. There are concerns with good faith moving forward. We are comfortable with the fact that they do have Mr. Lally on board, who we're very familiar with, and I'll just defer to his presentation.
Thank you. Only question I have is approval of a temporary use permit, if that happens, doesn't negate code enforcement action for any unpermitted structures, and it doesn't negate action against the special use permit for any violations, correct? Okay. All right. Oh.
If I may, Mr. What's important is that the allegations that the subject of the code violation are for what occurred prior to today. All you're being asked to do, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, is to approve an event for tomorrow.
Hang on, Wayne's coming up so that.
No one's ever told me they couldn't hear me. Just to restate, the code violation that's being pursued is for events that occurred prior to today. The TUP that's being applied for is for you to approve an event for tomorrow. So if something happened tomorrow that violated the ordinance, that would be a separate, although we'd probably consolidate them, code violations. So to answer your question specifically, no, they're two completely separate items.
All right, thank you. Everybody catch that? Good. Any other questions of staff by any of the board members? All right, seeing none, I go ahead and open up the public hearing and have the applicant or representative please come up, provide your name and go forward.
Great, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. Bill Lally with Tiffany Bosco here today representing the application. If we could go to, I think we have a presentation. Yeah, maybe go to the next slide. There's been a lot of, I guess, discussion today about sort of where the process, what happened, what are the entitlements. I think it's important to kind of give a little bit, and we have a lot of people here today, so I'm going to try to be very brief because it's more important that they speak than I do. But starting in 2020, we had COVID, March 2020. They were right in the middle of processing an SUP here at the Maricopa County. They weren't represented by an attorney or someone who'd done a lot of SUPs, the engineer of record who never visited the site, filed the application, came up with a site plan, came up with conditions that he thought would probably maybe work. And so we're in the middle of COVID and all that this is happening, the negotiation over conditions of approval. It finally gets approved in January of 2021. Improvements were being made to the site consistent with sort of a wedding venue. But in reality, the applicants, without the benefit of having gone through this, or having the benefit of being a sophisticated developer and familiar with code and process, began to operate events, did some improvements consistent with the site plan, planned to phase in some improvements. If we could go to the next slide, I do want to mention there's a little bit of context to look at as we talk about the SUP that was initiated to be revoked last year by staff. Our client, the applicant, spent some time, we're on the map, they're yellow. It's about a 2.5 acre parcel. To the north of them, they also own about 3+ acres that's part of their property. As you can see to the east of them, and all of the blue are the letters of support that was gathered for the SUP to not be revoked over the last couple months. And so we got involved late January. First thing that we did was go down and have a meeting with Darren and Tom and the staff and say, what do we need to do to make this right? And the owners and the applicants said, yes, please let us know. What are we doing wrong? We made some improvements. What do we need to do to change? We want to be in compliance. If you can go to the next slide, you'll get a feel for the context of the property. The last slide showed the blue bubbles to the east, which are the property owners that are the most impacted. As you can see, the parking lot's right next to them. They're in support. The property owners to the south, they've submitted letters. They're in support. The property to the north in yellow is part of the same ownership. And so in terms of immediate impacts, we talked to those adjacent property owners to make sure that, hey, we've been operating events. We're sort of doing it. What do you think? And they are supportive of it so far. You can go to the next slide. Again, this gives you a little bit of what I just said. There were a lot of things, where the bathrooms need to go, where the parking needs to go, where the drive aisles need to go. So we have a plan of action in place. We met with staff and secured from the Planning Commission an indefinite continuance to give us time to work out these issues. At the same time, we're right in the middle of wedding season. They had a number of weddings in the spring that were scheduled, and those events did go on. We're not going to lie about it. Those events did happen while we're working through the continuance of the wedding SUP and working with trying to find a new engineer to really derive a new site plan and new conditions that work for everybody. As we know, the SUP process will go through a public notice, public hearings, Planning Commission, Board of Supervisors. So there's opportunity for us going forward to create conditions that work for everybody. If you go to the next slide, you'll really get a feel for the quality of the property. This isn't something that was just thrown up and it's a temporary type situation. The next slide, please. It's a quality facility. It's a 2.5 acre parcel, but really has another 3.5 acres surrounding it that's a buffer. The next slide, please. And the reason why I put these on here is just to show you that, yes, this is a rural area, but they have spent a lot of money. The next slide, please. Showing and organizing a very quality type development. Last slide, please, I think. I think there might be one more after that. Yeah, so to give you a feel for one more slide, the quality of the development, this isn't something that was just thrown up last year. During COVID, it was very difficult for them to figure out how to get through the process. They're less than sophisticated in terms of building commercial style type of things. So if you go back to the very beginning, you'll see an aerial. And you'll hear today that there's a context of the area. This is a very rural, and we hear it a lot. County Islands, very, very rural. One more back. But I just want to remind, so less than a half acre or half a mile to the south, large industrial buildings. Less than a half a mile, not even a quarter of a mile to the west is the Loop 303. That's Cotton Lane. That will be the Loop 303. That large piece of property that's adjacent to Cotton Lane in the city of Goodyear will not be large lot homes. That will be industrial buildings along a busy freeway. So this area is transitioning. As much as I think we want to obviously be respectful of our neighbors and the rural nature of the area, this area is transitioning. And so a 3 or a 5 acre venue probably makes sense in the future. And I think there's probably somebody who's doing a quality job like you saw with the pictures. I think they deserve potentially to be given a second chance to do it right the next time around. And that's what we're asking for today. Let them figure out how to get through tomorrow's event, make some money, which is what they do, so we can hire a site plan or a new architect and engineer and go back through the process and correct all of these with neighborhood input for sure, and make sure that what you hear today in terms of roadway improvements and parking and hours of operation and amplified noise, that we can take care of those as we go through the SUP process. With that, Mr. Chairman and board members, you have a lot of people here to talk. I'll try to wrap it up, and if you have any questions, be happy to.
Thank you very much, Bill. Any of the board members have any questions of the applicant at this time? All right, go ahead and hang tight. May have some for you coming up. This is a public hearing, and I have a large number of people in support and people in opposition that filled out cards. If you wish to speak and you're in the audience, please make sure you fill out one of these cards and hand it to Rosalie so she can give it to me and I can call your name. We're going to impose a 3-minute maximum time to speak on an item. I would encourage you, for or against, to try to not be repetitive. If you have something new, or if you just want to say, not literally ditto, but I support or I'm opposed to it, explain real briefly why. It'd be much appreciated by us, and there may be other speakers online. So I'm going to go with those opposed to it first, no particular order, but I have a Deborah Zinkel, says she does not wish to speak. Is that correct? Okay. I have a Todd Gribbler who does wish to speak. If you could just give us the name for the record and then go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Todd Gribbler, and thank you, panel. I just want to say that we're neighbors. Maybe I would say that my house is probably 300 feet from the venue. And I'd have to say that they seem to violate the SUP, temporary SUP all the time. I mean, they've never been in compliance with it. Mainly for the noise, the amplified music, they've had amplified music at every party since it's began. So I can't have my door open even in my bedroom because it faces the venue. So even on a nice spring evening, you know, the stuff is coming right into my bedroom. We have many people traveling down the road that goes back to the venue is on my property. So they drive through and there's much dust. My mother lives at the back of my property and they drive by and creates a lot of dust and breathing problems for her. And then we get the nice cleanup the next morning. You know, we have beer bottles or beer cans and cigarette boxes down my road that, you know, they drive and throw out on the way out in the evening. And I just don't know, you know, we need some assistance out there. It's really gotten out of control.
Understood. Thank you very much. Any questions of the speaker? And for the brevity and all those in favor and those opposed, I won't ask again if there are any questions from any of the board members. So raise your hand, try to get my attention, just to kind of keep things moving along. Thank you very much, Mr. Gribbler. All right. Rochelle Gribbler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, staff. We really appreciate your time here today. My name is Rochelle Gribbler. I live at 16827 West Lower Buckeye Road. I also own 2915 South 169 Avenue. That is where my mother-in-law lives. This venue has cost me $4,000 worth of road work. We have, back in 2019, they ran parties all year before they had an SUP request. Then, from when they got the SUP, by the way, I called on that sign, and that gentleman told us, oh, well, you're more than 300 feet away. Yes, but yes, from the venue. The venue's in the center of their property. So on the corner of my property that corners to theirs, I don't get any notifications, even though I requested a notification for that SUP hearing. Fast forward. Once I realized we were stuck accepting this venue, even though they partied all through 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Even under COVID restrictions, they partied all the way through. When we were told to be locked down, they partied. 100% COVID spreaders, big time. That really was humiliating when we had to sit at home. But back to the road. You see, in 2020, when we found out we were stuck, basically, and going to be abused with all the dust, I took this little one-lane road, which is an irrigation road. 169th Avenue is my property, up from Lower Buckeye Road to 2915. It is a single-lane irrigation road. It is only for residential use and the irrigators. Because it's been so dusty with the speeding and the uncontrolled traffic, the amounts of people brought in, I couldn't maintain the road anymore. The ruts were getting so bad. So I went in and I just had asphalt millings dropped. We didn't have a lot of construction done with it, nothing. And it settled really nice. It was beautiful. And all of a sudden, my mother-in-law is dust-free. She says, man, I don't have to dust the house every day anymore. Oh, great. Fast forward. In 2020, October of 2020, he was given a warning that he's in violation of the SUP. You got 10 days to comply, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? He comes through with big grader and tears out 169th Avenue, tears up my asphalt millings. And then they put down this black dirt. It's a black, dusty dirt. And, oh, but it will, he's telling me, oh, it'll settle, it'll settle. Then that same day, he's telling me, well, you see, we reign on the side of ignorance, me and my family. In other words, I said, you're telling me that in a nutshell, you're going to do what you want and then suffer the consequences later. And those aren't big consequences. Don't do that. And that's what's happening with this TUP, by the way. So fast forward, I realize this TP is going to go through. I'm just like, this is going to happen. Forget it. I'm putting down another $2,000 worth of asphalt millings, and I did it again just 2 weeks ago. This has cost me $4,000 now, and I'm a neighbor just trying to stay dust-free. By the way, between October and March, my dog was diagnosed with valley fever. I'm mad. I've lived there for 20 years. Not one of my dogs has ever been diagnosed with valley fever. And that has to do something with, I told my vet, you want to give me a write-up on it? He says, absolutely. I'll stand behind you on this. Because I told him my situation. He says, absolutely, that dust will cause that. Now, what's that doing to my health? Do you know, in the last 2 weeks, my sinuses have cleared up. I'm actually still a little nasal. That's from this. But it's starting to clear up. I'm starting to get better already. Just haven't. So actually, venue's not so bad, I guess, if you don't mind noise and dust. And I'm not even going to talk about the noise. My husband did, and you're going to hear a lot of that behind me. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm just a little passionate. That's all.
No problem with that at all. Thank you very much for your time. I have a Luke Boise or Boise. I butcher names all the time, so my apologies.
Okay. Hi,
Hello. Could you give us your name for the record, please?
Luke Boise. Good morning and thank you for having me today. My name is Luke Boise. I'm a direct neighbor to the Rancho Viejo venue and am in deep opposition to all operations of this venue. You will hear enough about the noise issues today, but my concern is the safety for our community that has already been compromised. I don't know if you're familiar with this area, but we live in a county island that is made up of livestock and crop production, even though it is right in the middle of Goodyear. I, for example, irrigate my Bermuda production twice a month, 6 months out of the year, and have run my water in the middle of the night due to the size of my parcel, which is about 20 acres. On one particular evening, a year ago at 2:30 in the morning, I was on Pioneer Street checking the bottom end of my water like normal. As the party was closing down, mind you, at 2:30 in the morning, there were multiple participants leaving in excess of 45 miles an hour, mind you, on a dirt road. I stepped out of my pickup to give a slow down motion, only to have a party goer stop, back up, roll down his window, and pull a pistol on me. Though I was lucky that time, the concoction of late night parties and hundreds of participants only invites problems to the neighborhood. On another topic, we had the understanding that on April 6th, we would have the opportunity for revocation. Before that hearing, I read all of the letters of support for the Rancho Viejo venue, in which I could not help notice three buzzwords that kept appearing, which was hardworking, family friends, and livelihood. Though these terms can be admirable and endearing qualities, none of them exonerate anyone from adhering to the rules, codes, and regulations we would all have to abide by. This has been a complete drain on our police force for the better part of 3.5 years as well. Please put these issues into your decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Let's see if anybody wants to make comments. Deborah Vogelpohl.
I have mine written out. I hope that's okay. My name is Deb Vogelpohl. Thank you, Chairman Loper and board members. I live at 165th Avenue in Goodyear, which is about 3/4 of a mile east of the venue. We bought our property in April of 2017. At that time, the area, which is in a county island, was peaceful. However, in November of 2018, we started noticing issues with loud noise coming from the Cazares Event Center, as well as increased traffic along 165th Avenue. I'm confused on this timeline because the attorney previously said the SUP was approved in 2021, so I don't know why, they were having events in 2018. But anyway, as a property owner living along 165th Avenue, we own our section of the road, and we are responsible for roadway maintenance, as it has easement access for other homeowners and utilities. The cost associated with maintenance adds up quickly, as the price of ABC roadbed is approximately $40 a ton, taking 30 to 40 tons to repair our section of the road each time. This equates to approximately $1,600 each time we have to repair our section of the road, and only to have the additional traffic coming and going from the venue to tear it back down again. It's frustrating to continually repair the road at our own expense. In addition, while others financially benefit holding these illegal events, the additional traffic also creates clouds of dust in the entire area. And you already know about all of the calls to Maricopa County Sheriff with the history reports, the location of events reports. In addition to having events on Fridays and Saturdays, they've also had events during the weeknight that have gone way past all hours. There's been 11 times that the noise has continued after 10 o'clock p.m. So as far as like our noise ordinance. Unfortunately, due to the loud music, we are unable to have our doors and windows open on cooler evenings, and we need to run the air conditioner, which unnecessarily increases our electric costs. On April 25th, I obtained written verification via email from a senior planner with the Maricopa County Planning and Development, indicating that the Rancho Viejo Event Center does not have either a special use permit or a temporary use permit issued to operate and hold events. I contacted Maricopa County Sheriff's non-emergency line to request that a premise alert be added to the address of 16740 West Pioneer Street in Arizona, so that any responding Maricopa County officers would be aware of this written information. Because and at that time, or after that, I had called in a noise complaint. I met with the Maricopa County Deputy Rand in person to provide him with the written information before he responded to this event venue. I did this because on other previous responses from Maricopa County Sheriff, the event venue owner claimed ignorance and claimed that they had permits. The email also indicated, the email from the senior planner also indicated that the venue's owner's attorney was aware that there are no permits issued in order to hold events. Going forward from this point, we are asking that you not approve any permits for the Cazares or Rancho Viejo Event Center to continue holding events, because they have shown nothing but disregard for the SUP and TUP requirements, as well as the additional strain on law enforcement due to repeated responses from MCSO, not to mention the disregard of all of the neighboring property owners. And let's see. It was already mentioned about the amplified music. They're not supposed to have any amplified music. When we've called in noise complaints, they can literally hear it over the phone, how loud it is, and we live 3/4 of a mile away. I mean, I don't know, and there's probably 7 acres of buffer of properties between us, and it still is just incredibly loud. So, and also, I just wanted to add one more thing. With the temporary use permit request, it was my understanding that they need 10 days advance notice for approval. And if this event is supposed to happen tomorrow, that's not 10 days. That's the day before. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Darren, real quick, could you clarify what that notice is?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's a mandatory 10-day posting period, which did occur. The posting indicated the date by which we needed to obtain any registered opposition, which is the 10-day period. And it also listed today's board date in case there was opposition received. We received opposition immediately upon posting.
Thank you. Jason Skelly. And again, try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less if you can.
My name is Jason Skelly. I live about a quarter mile away, and I've been there for the last 23 years. And I can't even go out in my pool in the evening and listen to my own music. I have to listen to whatever music's being played at this event. So it's a shame we put all this money into our places and to have a happy house to live in, and all of a sudden it gets upturned by somebody that moves in. I have no control over what goes on over there. So I get up in the morning, I go to my buddy's house, lives not about 350 yards away, same as the other fellow was saying, beer cans, trash. It's just crazy that, you know, this should not be approved. I should not have to sit at my house and listen to other people's parties going on and their announcements of people and it's nothing like it was. So that's what I have.
Thank you very much. David Schuler.
Good afternoon. My name's David Schuler. I live on Pioneer about, I don't know the scale, I'm going to say 200 yards from the venue. I'll start with that. It looks like some people did want to have this. I can point out the guy across the street from me works nights, so he don't hear this garbage. The guy next door to me, he flips houses, so he lives there for 2 years and he makes his money and goes. The guy next to him, bless his heart, he's got a food truck. He probably wants to get in the venue. But if you look at the police reports, his wife's calling about disturbances to the police. Her name's in there. Over 60 calls to the police, and it only, if you give the exact address. If I say there's noise on Pioneer, they don't write it down. But if you give the exact address, and there's all of those. The place is beautiful. I've seen it. It's a neighborhood. It is not a commercial property for weddings and 50th parties and whatever. The guy rocks the neighborhood nonstop for 3 years. He's never followed any rules. It actually isn't his issue. This guy by the name of Joel told him, when we called in, this will never pass. Don't worry about it. We were never even given an opportunity to speak. So he kind of did what he wanted to do because he was never opposed. The garbage, all the nonsense, I'm not going to repeat it. One thing real important, coming from the east is where I live. I own that road. The way the county's designated, and you can talk to the Gribblers here, they own the road going in one way, I own the road the other. We have to keep it open for easement purposes. We own the road, so I breathe dust from 100 cars every weekend, Tuesdays, the limo, the bus that drives them through here. I got to breathe all that shit, and pardon my language, this stuff, it's my road, and I have to deal with it. Again, they all say he's a good man, good family. They probably are. They're so good. When everything got revoked, they walked around January 24th. We want to make a meeting and make it correct with the neighbors and all this stuff. Well, they made all that good by having a 7-hour party that night. Shook my house, can't open my doors. Got an older house, even with the windows closed. Shakes it, got to breathe the dust. We got 2 young girls that are afraid to drive by there because they don't know what's going on. The summer, we're going to stop for the summer. They stop every summer because, again, nobody has a wedding and stuff when it's 110 degrees out. They go to an indoor venue, not an outdoor. That's why they're stopping for the summer. They're not going to complete any of this stuff. I'm going to repeat it again. It's a neighborhood. It's a residential area. It's not a venue for parties every weekend. When the April 6th deal, we weren't allowed to go to, or not allowed to. They said we didn't need to attend for revocation. It's on video, the YouTube. Can we get, the representative said, can we get 4 more parties? We approved that. They walked out and got 6. Well, again, somebody up here's got record. There was 9 or 10 since then. And I didn't even realize what we're going through right here because all this we're talking about, they're having this party tomorrow, period. I mean, we're realistically wasting our time right now. So I got nothing else.
Thank you for speaking, coming down. John Williams.
Good afternoon. My name's John Williams, and I'm a resident in the area. And my biggest complaint is the noise. Okay, I don't live on the dirt road, so I don't deal with the dust. I do know the people that do, and it is ridiculous. I have seen the dust in the area. What I would like to point out, if you look at his venue, and if you go north, Lower Buckeye is the next street, and you have a giant subdivision right there. I do know multiple people in there that have complained about the noise. They can't be here because they have to work. You know, you can't take off work to come to a meeting sometimes. I live over a quarter mile from the venue. I can't watch TV in my house sometimes. His music is so loud, much less sit outside on a nice morning or nice evening, I should say. I can't open my windows. It's a nice, cool evening. I want to open my window. Can't do it. The noise. It's ridiculous. I called the sheriff multiple times. If you look at their records, and before I knew we had to give an address, I gave them a location, a basic intersection. Guess what? Those didn't get recorded. How many of those are there? I know people in the subdivision have called. They call the city of Goodyear because they don't know it's a county island. They're referred to the sheriff. Some of them just give up, say, I'll forget it. But nobody does anything. What's going to happen for tomorrow? There'll be a party, probably another one next weekend. The sheriff will show up, they'll shut them down, and then we have another one the following week. It's nonstop. I know that the city attorney says, well, we can't assume that they're going to do this. Well, if you've done something 100 times in the past, can you assume it's probably going to happen that way again? Yeah, probably, right? That vacant field right there, the last I have heard, that was scheduled for apartments. Now, unless they've changed the zoning, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. But then you're really going to have something. And from what I understand, some of those blue boxes, those people didn't approve. Now, I don't personally know that, but I've heard that from other people. But somebody should really go look at the area before they say, oh, yeah, we'll approve it. And don't look at a map because you really can't tell. How far is the subdivision from the venue? When you go out and look, it's like less than 1,000 feet. And there's nothing there but a field. So all that amplified music travels. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. He'll probably continue to have his parties because nobody stops him. But I really don't want to see this happen because it's going to kill our property values. So, thank you.
Thank you. And then Marlo Downing, or Marion Downing, sorry. I should put glasses on first.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I picked up a letter from Mr. Downing this morning. He's one of my neighbors. So I'd just like to read this to you if I could. He had surgery a week ago and couldn't attend today. So he says, thank you, Mr. Chairman and the Board of Adjustment members. My name is Marion Jerry Downing. I'm located at 16621 West Pioneer Street, across from the party venue, just south and east of the entrance to this venue. I'm sorry I could not be here today. I recently had surgery and homebound. I've had a difficult time for 3.5 years now with this party venue. During the parties, I can't watch TV. When I go to bed, I can't sleep. They keep me up late into the night with very loud music. I'm 76 years old and I've lived here for 15 years. And I've never had to deal with so much road dust, noise, and strangers coming past my property. The road dust alone has caused my home to be dustier than it's ever been, and it severely affects my breathing. I'm concerned about the dangers of so much dust having long-term effects on my health. What about valley fever? Who will pay for my medical bills? Surely not the venue. Usually, the following day after a party, I have to go out on my property and pick up beer cans, beer bottles, and other trash that patrons throw out. Please do not give this venue a temporary use permit to further abuse me in this neighborhood. Thank you for hearing my story, Mary and Jerry Downing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have one more speaker request card from Mike Duran, who says he does not wish to speak. Right. And if there's anyone else who wants to speak, please fill out a card because he's the last speaker that I have on this particular item in person.
My name is Mike Duran. I live across Lower Buckeye from the venue, 2,000 feet away. And like others, I don't deal with the dust, but the noise is quite bothersome. When I can be in my house at 11 o'clock at night and I can't listen to my own TV because of the music noise, that's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, I've had many parties in my backyard and police have been called for the noise. shut it down and you respect your neighbors. And this is just going to get worse. It's not gotten any better. I have called the police. I've called the venue on a number I found on the internet to say, hey, you know, turn it down, but nobody answers the phone. You can't get a hold of nobody with an email. Of course, it's going on at that time. So, you know, I called the sheriff. They went out and the music got turned down, but that music is just out of control. As far as these blue lines, I don't see any lines for the people that don't want it on these maps.
That was the applicant's presentation?
That's all I have. Just the music's out of control, and when the neighbor's out irrigating and gets a gun pulled in on him, I'm going, that's only going to get worse. If they're not going to even adhere to any rules that have been put on them so far with these temporary permits or whatever they had, they're not going to do it now. Why should they? Nothing happens to it. That's all I got.
And your name again for the record, I'm not sure.
Mike Duran.
Duran. Yep. Right. Thank you very much. We have no other speakers card. Is there anybody in here who wants to speak? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to those online. David, if they've registered for as opposition, or it's not told online.
Chairman Loper, we have no online speakers for this issue.
Okay, all right. Then I will, before I go on to those who are in favor, a couple things I wanted to ask of staff. Darren, what conditions are presently recommended for this TUP?
Mr. Chair, in paragraph 12, you will see 3 pages of conditions.
You can just summarize them.
Yeah, so they are conditioned to a substantial conformance with a site plan. I will note that it is the same site plan that was approved for the SUP that they're not in compliance with. They have submitted a narrative report that indicates the event times will be 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. With all lighting turned off and closure of the venue gates by 11 p.m. They are responsible for traffic control. I'm skipping some that have no bearing on operations. This is not an approval to construct anything other than those temporary structures that are up for 96 consecutive hours or less. All traffic entering and exiting the site shall be from and to the west, Pioneer Street and 169th Avenue to Lower Buckeye Road. Any food concessions must be permitted by environmental services. Alcohol sales are not permitted unless a liquor license is obtained by the clerk of the board. And then there are standard temporary event items that they need to adhere to, such as 1 security guard for every 500 persons in attendance. So obviously this should be 1 security guard. And there's other water and wastewater provisions, concession provisions, 1 trash can with 32-gallon capacity for every 25 persons in attendance. And that's the gist of the.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And I'll go ahead with those that have shown that they are in support. I have Yasmin Cortez. Says she wished to speak. Bridget Cajada. Want to speak? Okay. Said that. Sorry, I didn't. I have a Jose Silvera. Okay. Keith Dranaski. Monique Steele. Wish to speak?
Hello, can you hear me? No?
No, I can't. Just the mic.
Now can you?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Monique Steele. I live north of Lower Buckeye, about a street past that last blue box on Hilton. I am here to approve the venue because we would like to have my daughter's wedding there. We do live in the neighborhood. We went to view the venue. It's beautiful. The pictures don't do it justice. You can hear the music when you're outside. When you're in your house, you can't hear the music. We have dust at our house all times because we live on a farm. It doesn't matter how many cars drive by. I have to dust my house every day. My microwave, my counters, we have dust. Yesterday, it got windy, there's dust. No matter how many cars come up and down the road, you're going to have dust. It doesn't matter who's having a party or who's not. I hear parties from all directions, and I don't know who's having the party in my neighborhood. We don't call the cops. You just hear music. You know, it's not always coming from the south. I hear it from the north also. But that's when we're sitting outside. When I go in my house and shut my doors and go to bed, I don't hear any music. I sleep peaceful at night. I've never felt unsafe in my neighborhood. We're very close with our neighbors. We have block parties on my block. We haven't had any problems. We think that that's a great thing he's doing. I run a nonprofit at the local high school, and the owner of the venue has offered to host nonprofit events there and give all the money to the Booster Club to raise money for the high school. So he's offered to get involved to do benefits to raise money for the high school for Goodyear too. So I think that's great with Goodyear growing. With people wanting to get involved. And unfortunately, growth is happening in Goodyear. And even though nobody wants to see growth in our county island, it's happening and we have to evolve with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robert, assuming related at least. So Robert Steele for the record. If you could please give your name and then go ahead.
My name is Robert Steele. Obviously, Monique's my wife. I agree with her and I agree with the venue. Even though I don't want to pay for my daughter's wedding, but I still would like to have it there. It is a beautiful place. The noise, you can hear it. You can hear the music. And you can tell the later it gets, the lower the music gets. But that's not the only noise we hear. We are a couple miles from Desert Edge High School. Every Friday night, my son played football there. She was Booster Club president. And now our kids are grown, but we can still hear the football games at the house. I'm not calling the sheriff's department or Goodyear police on Goodyear High School. I can hear Goodyear Ballpark, spring training baseball games, special events they have. I'm not calling Goodyear PD. I can even hear PIR race cars from my house. I'm not calling PD on them. I think it's a good thing he's doing there. I've met him. He is a humble man. They do have a good thing going, and he did inform me about the issues that he's having, and he's coming up with great ideas to make it better for everybody. He's looking to see if he can buy a water truck and maybe keep the dust down, water it down. I think with a little bit of communication with your neighbors, you can solve any problems. Y'all don't have to hate each other. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, and I'm not even from here in Arizona. I'm from Virginia, but I moved to Arizona knowing I was going to deal with some dust. So if you want my opinion, I'm for the venue. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. Haley Drenaski.
I'm legally blind. It's not a paperweight, or I don't tell the future. I mean, if I did, then you'd probably see me on Bravo. But my name is my name is Haley Drunaski. I'm actually the neighbor of Monique and Bobby Steele. So I live in Saraville Gardens. I actually did the driving directions, and I'm exactly a 5-minute drive from the venue. I've been residing in that community for 3 years, and then we moved from just about 5 minutes away, and then so I've been in that community for 15 years. Sorry, I had to write down my notes or I'd forget. One thing I just wanted to kind of add on a little bit about the development and growth in Goodyear. When I first moved there, you used to get off on I-10 and it was a stop sign. Clearly, the 303 was one way. We have evolved and we're going to continue to evolve. My husband is a member on the Community and Development Planning Committee for Goodyear, and there are so many things on the rise. I know Lower Buckeye has been brought up a lot, and that where I can see can draw some concerns because it is a one-way road. And when you get to Lower Buckeye and to Saraville, they have now put a stop sign in place, which is temporary until they can actually build the stoplights. I think many people know, or those who may not know, when they do start to build roads, they don't build it or plan it for the 20 years out. So every time we're building, like on I-10, we're already 20 years behind on how much we need to expand. That is developing. There's currently construction on Saraville. And I also don't like to take Lower Buckeye because it can be, there's no turn lane to turn into my Saraville Gardens. But unfortunately, that is something that is out of our hands and for the city to help develop and grow that specific place. Also, Romans, which is a very hole-in-the-wall old bar that has been there forever, is also 5 minutes away from me. So I'd say I'm right in the middle. And while they don't have any venue outside, they're actually going to have to unfortunately move because they are expanding that 303. And I have never seen or had any issues with the noise. I actually just recently found out about the venue. I would be honest in saying in the last 3 months, I hadn't even known that there was a venue there. I know mentioned there are other parties and things that we can hear, but nothing that has caused a disruption for my kids to go to bed at their normal time, which is 8 to 9. If I go outside, I hear it, but I don't know where it's coming from. The only reason why I learned about it was because my neighbor, because I'm in my best friend's wedding, and she was looking at venues. And we looked in Goodyear, and there's actually no other venues that I was able to find. There was one called Palm Valley, which they are now actually closing. So we don't have anything in Goodyear. When we look for growth and development, we're going to have to take that revenue and drive it somewhere else in other adjacent cities like Litchfield, like Buckeye, like Tolleson, and take that away from Goodyear. And I'm all about growing and developing. It allows us then to build our own community. And I take pride in that Goodyear is that still kind of that little country rural city that allows us to have that family based. And I love to know that we have these small businesses that are trying to thrive and grow. And so that's really what I have to say. And I think just as to close again, I have never had any issues with noise or trash that I have seen. I know I'm not right on that area, but there's Vanderbilt subdivision that is like in our same area. And then unfortunately, there are areas that are over there that are not have not been grown or development. And we see and actually go over there as a family and pick up the beer bottles and stuff like that, just as a community trying to help ourselves out. But unfortunately, it's none of my adjacent neighbors, responsibilities, because we can't help, unfortunately, all the actions that people that we interact with that may or may not do something that's inappropriate. So, but thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And yes, sad to see Romans going away. Mary Rivera.
Mary D. Rivera. Can you hear me? Yes. So I am the Secretary for Vice President for the Far West for LULAC.org. We do a lot of community events. We have found the family for more than 20 years. We have helped them. They have helped us. As far as the community goes, they have been a very big part of our growth when it comes down to charity events and all kinds of community engagement. Now, they have donated to a lot of charities, a lot of events, and I can tell you that their family has been a pioneer for a lot of those things that we do. Their family, I know a lot of people don't talk about their family a lot, but Miguel is no different than everybody that has a lot of other businesses in the valley. I'm also part of Crescent Crown, which is a distributor. They have actually not had my beer there, which I was really upset because of the license bar. So I know that you guys say that they don't obey by the rules. They're really trying. I mean, they've been, from the beginning, they have had a lot of pushbacks, setbacks, and I don't know that they know exactly what they're supposed to do. I think they're a little bit confused because there's so much stuff going on, but I can tell you that they're trying really hard. I want to also tell you, they have offered to work with a lot of the neighbors. I've been there, I've seen it. The road part that they did was because some of the neighbors needed that. They wanted to pave the road and do, a lot of good things for the neighborhood. Everything that they do is because somebody recommends them to do it because it's going to benefit the neighborhood. So again, it's not just them doing it. It's somebody else kind of helping them out to make it better, but it hasn't been for them. We stand behind them. I mean, like I said, I'm not in the neighborhood, so I cannot feel what the neighbors feel, but I can tell you that they are good people, good community leaders, and I'm for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Edith Bermudez.
Good afternoon. My name is Edith Bermudez and I live in the community. I live on Victory Lane. We've been living there for about 3 years now. I can say that they do not bother us in any way, shape, or form. Their music in the middle of the night does not bother us. We can't hear it unless we go outside. Personally, when we do go outside and they do have music, we dance in the backyard to listen to the music. We love the community. We love them as well as a family and as a venue. As far as the dust goes, it doesn't bother me at all because we live on a ranch. So if there's wind, there's dust. If there's, anything, horses running by, there's dust. So we personally have had horses since we lived there, since we moved there. And we haven't had a problem with them getting sick because of the dust because they're horses. They're used to the dust. So we don't have any problem with them. And we're totally for their venue and what they're doing for our community and how they're helping our house also value go up. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mary, there are 2 cards for you. It's one in, okay. That's all right. I didn't know, maybe another family member or something. Just wanted to check. Gabriel Cabrera.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Gabriel Cabrera. I am actually next to the next door neighbor of the Casares Rancho Viejo family. I can personally tell you, I work all hours of the day and night, not just night. I drive in and out at all times of the day and night because of my restaurants. So I get my sleep sometimes during the day, sometimes I get it during the night. I have yet to see, except for one time, and I think it was somebody that was just having a little fun in their car in the corner of 169th Avenue and Pioneer. I seen them when I got home. They were parked there, and I went to sleep, came back the following day, I seen a couple beer cans. That's about the only time I seen beer cans. The other time was 165th Avenue and Pioneer Street. I believe the neighbors that moved into that new house, it's either for rent or they bought it, I don't know, left a bunch of beer cans all over the place. I have yet to see beer cans coming from the party goers of, as they have been mentioned, into this venue. I have not seen it. I have a 2-year-old son as of today that sleeps sound at night because there's no rattling going on inside my house. I walk outside, I can barely hear the music. Past 10 p.m. the last couple of months, that music is turned way down. I have also noticed that I'm going to say about a month and a week, my neighbors on the corner of 165th Avenue and Pioneer had a party. The sheriff's office was not at that house. They were at the Cáceres, Rancho Viejo. To me, I think they're just being unjustly, basically targeted. To me, that's unfair. A small business, I got a couple of small businesses. And I don't think, they're even given the opportunity to do things better. So I do approve their venue because the music is just not that loud. You're gonna have dust. You live in a county island. So you are gonna have dust from a lot of things, not just the cars. They have a couple times put, I'm gonna say rock and whatever they bought to make the road better in front of my house. It definitely took out the dust. I offered to pay for part of it. They didn't want it. They said, it was their responsibility since they have multiple cars going. They did it on 169th Avenue as well before my neighbor did it. She did it 2 weeks ago. And I will gladly pay the $4,000 that she paid because that's not, I think they're just being fairly untargeted. I'm a small business owner myself and I'm in and out, but I am in approval of this small venue. Goodyear is changing. There's a lot of restaurants going down on McDowell. There's a lot of restaurants going down everywhere close to us. We got Walmarts, we got Targets within 2 to 3 miles of us. We're moving along, we're progressing. I like to see the neighborhood grow. I think this venue is good for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Edgar Flores.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me? I'm actually here on behalf of Raul Hines. He's a Phoenix police officer. So he gave me the letter he wrote. He says, hello, my name is Raul Hines. I wish I could be there in person and share, but my work schedule would not allow it. My wife and I just had our wedding this past Saturday at Rancho Viejo, and it was the wedding of our dreams. Since the beginning of the planning process, the staff at Rancho Viejo was upfront and clear about the noise ordinance. They advised us that as the night progressed, the music would need to be turned down. They advised us there was no live bands in the later hours. It was evident to me that they cared about the neighbors and they are a very professional business. I am a Phoenix police officer and I often see loud noise complaints from businesses. There are businesses that don't care at all with the noise they're making, but in this case, Rancho Viejo, they're a great business and they very much care about the community. Thank you, Raul Hines, Phoenix PD 9935. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daniel Arachiga. Tell by expression I butchered that.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? My name is Daniel Arechiga. I live directly across from the venue. Like everyone else has said, the noise. I have a little small double wide. It's not a custom home. And to my understanding, we are in the zone of where the Air Force Base is. And houses do need to be double insulated. I go in my little small house, close the door, I can't hear a thing. I'm directly across, I want to say about 100 feet or less. I can't hear anything. The dust, there's dust everywhere, like everyone has said. It's not only the cars that come in and out of that party. There's quads, there's dirt bikes, there's side-by-sides. So it's not just them, it's everyone, and it doesn't hurt anyone. I mean, we live in a ranch and it's dust everywhere. Charities, I've been there firsthand where Miguel has offered, I won't say the person's name or what happened to them, but one of the neighbors, his son, something happened to him, offered to do a charity for him for any bills, for medical bills or any expenses that taken that. He's helped me putting road on my driveway. I was tired of all the mud and stuff like that. Helped me put it in my driveway. Stuff that they put down the road. Eliminated everything. The dust, the mud. So all in all, good person. They're doing some good for the community, for Goodyear. And like everyone said, it's growing. We have to just accept it and live our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy Garnier?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm also in support. I'm the neighbor directly to the east, blue box.
Could you go ahead and say your
Oh,
name?
yes, Jeremy Garnier. I'm the neighbor directly to the east in the blue box. I have 3 small children, never had any issues with violence, anybody getting out of hand, never had any issues with the traffic. Dust is the dust. I mean, we're getting redundant. That's repeating, right? So the music, again, it's a venue and it's been low. And when you're outside, I'm right next to it. You do hear it. I'm right next to them. When you go inside, I don't hear anything. Now, maybe I have the best insulation in the world, but it's not a problem for us. We do sleep soundly. And again, I believe most of these are held on Friday evenings, Saturday evenings, maybe. So it's a weekend thing, and it's not every day. So we go outside, and because it's rural, we have a lot of peaceful nights. So with the trash, I haven't seen trash. I mean, we're right next to them. I haven't seen beer bottles or anything piling up. Miguel and his family have improved the roadways. They are trying to comply. They just added SHIP in front of our house. And again, like Gabriel said, I offered to pay. He denied because it was his responsibility. So I am in full support.
Thank you. Vanessa Montez? And I only have one more after this, so if there's someone else who wants to speak in support or speak anyway, please fill out a card.
Good afternoon, staff and officers. I came here today just to give and to me it's a little hard to speak because I'm also a wedding venue owner and I'm also family. And as Hispanics families are, we always stay together and true. But this is besides the fact. I come here today because as a wedding venue owner in the city of Phoenix, I was also fought and targeted. I was targeted for all the wrong reasons. And so I had the chance to speak to a Glendale community professor who opened my eyes and told me why I was being targeted. At that point in Phoenix, this was about 10 years ago, there was a stipulation in the city of Phoenix code where my building was big enough where I didn't need a hearing. So we ended up getting our use permits. These people that fought us never came again. But since then, I have stayed true to the promise that I made the community, which was I sit on the Phoenix City Hispanic Advocacy Board. We donate our space, and not because of any benefit, but because we like to support the community. There's much more than profit to be made. There's relationships, there's community support. We've donated our venue for blood drives, for toy drives, for job fairs. We're that kind of quality of people that want to see our future generations that are misrepresented, which they are, because if you see on the history of the calls, you'll see that over 90% have a name of Rochelle. And that person that is calling non-emergent situations like noise, there has been times when police have gotten to the property and there hasn't even been events at the property. So we're being targeted. Of course, the family is being targeted. When I meet with community members, which neighbors, and I've met when we had our open house, they've also questioned
Where is the money coming from to invest in this property? Why do we, because we look a certain way, why do we have to give that explanation? It's 10 times harder to have a business in the city of Phoenix, in the city of Goodyear, because of who we are, because of how we're being targeted. We're in a state that is growing, and I live on Vanderbilt Farms, which is half a mile from the Rancho Viejo venue. I know my brother-in-law, he's put his heart and his soul into this as with the kids and the family. Just recently, my husband was had an open heart surgery in March, which he was intubated over 2 months, almost 2 months in recovery. The only thing Miguel asked is that God would bless us with another chance with my husband being here. He's here today in support. That's the kind of quality of brother he is. That's the kind of quality of person he is. And like everyone else is saying, we do need a venue in Goodyear. There's a handful of venues in residential areas in Phoenix and Scottsdale, in Buckeye. There's not many that I can think of in Goodyear, probably one more. They're not doing the caliber of events that we are wanting to do for the city. So there's much more than just the noise here. And that can be easily fixed because there's future plans of an indoor barn, which is like the vintage style barn weddings that we would like to have. But obviously there's no money for that right now, which in the future there are plans for that. And like any new business owner, my brother-in-law, if he made mistakes, he's ready to correct those mistakes and stick by the stipulations of the hours of operation with music. And he will stick to them because I'm gonna make sure he does if he is granted the permit. Because there's much more than there's a livelihood that he has invested into this. He has even opened up the barn. We have horses there. There's dressage. There's a culture. He's offered to do equine therapy for kids, field trips for kids. I mean, there's much more than to just, target us because we're a certain people. Because we need to give explanations of who we are and what we are. And with gun violence, yes, there needs to be gun violence reform, but that's a separate topic. And I'd be willing to say that a lot of people in here wouldn't be for it. But I'm a mom of 7 kids as well, and I live in the area. And I've seen firsthand the injustice with my wedding venue. And these people have not shown up once in 10 years. But yet I have stayed true to my promise, and I know my brother-in-law will too. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Final speaker card I have is for, I can't tell if it's Francesco or Francesca. Francesco. Just give your name for the record, please, and go ahead.
Yes. My name is Francisco Giron, and I'm a neighbor, and I had the opportunity in the past to be one of the weddings at the venue, and I really enjoy the place. It's a nice place, and I'm really sorry to hear complaints against it. We moved to Goodyear. I live like I think less than 3/4 of a mile away from the venue. I don't have complaints about the noise, the dust. When we moved here, we knew that it was agriculture area. There's dust. There used to be a field where I live, and there was a tractor blowing dust most of the time. And my reason to be here is to say that I would be sorry to see or hear that a business is shut down because those little issues. We are developing. Goodyear is developing. New businesses are coming, and all the revenue created by a business in Goodyear will stay in Goodyear. Thank you.
Thank you. I see somebody frantically filling out a card. I would just again remind you that if you have something that's kind of already been discussed or stated, we heard that, and I'm not saying I don't want people to speak their mind on opposition or in being in favor, but try to keep it as brief as possible. Do we have another speaker card, Bill? Oh, okay. Go ahead and read it in the record.
Fidel Valenzuela.
Right, we still have a quorum though.
Okay. My name is Fidel Valenzuela. And so I decided to speak in the last moment. I live in 16740 Victoria Lane. I'm south of the Provenium, maybe like 200 feet away from them. My house is my building, my house. The structure is maybe 83 or 84. It's very old. The insulation is not good. But about the noise, I've been living there for like 3 years, more than that. And doesn't bother me anything of the music inside. Sometimes I'm working late night when all the beds going, and doesn't bother anything when we're sleeping, same thing. Sometimes they have parties over there, and sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I do because we're going outside. We getting too close. And I like to ride the horses. We have horses. We ride them. My horses, they never sick. I take it to the veterinarian sometimes just to get a shot. Never sick with the dust either. And about them, about the family who's going through these issues, I see so they're really, really good people, very friendly. And I almost ride my horses almost every other day around. And I would like to keep it the way it is right now. And I don't have any complaint for them. And that's it. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Anyone else who wants to speak either way? David, just to confirm, there's no one else online? What's that? Did you
Yeah,
submit a
that's
card?
correct. There's no one online.
Cortez? Oh, okay, okay,
I
good.
apologize. I was at the city.
And you probably didn't hear me say this, but if you could keep it at 3 minutes or less
No
and not
worries.
repeat a lot of things that have already been said, we appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, let me catch my breath. I was just at the city right now. Same thing. We're just trying to create something right for others. And sometimes others want to stop that from making it happen. My name is Yasmin Cortez, and I just want to publicly thank the family Casares for creating a wonderful ranch that not only provides a place where families gather for joy, happiness, and it's also a place where there are animals there that provide mental peace and help kids. I was going through something with my family, and I had the pleasure of, that's when I met them. I used to live right on the corner on 16446 West Pioneer Street. And that's when I met the family. I was going through something tough, and I met the ranch. They began building this place. And I mean, Goodyear in 2001 had 16,000, the population was 16,000. From 22 years to now, it has grown to 106,000. Yeah, of course, there's going to be a lot more people there, a lot more noise, a lot more traffic. They just built 5 new warehouses there. One probably which is just got occupied. There's going to be a lot more commute there. Once they connect that 303, it's just going to be like it is now. I recently moved to downtown, and I live right in front of the clubs where I hear them Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hey, you know what? I actually love living downtown, and I live there with my 2 kids. And yeah, sometimes I do earplugs, sometimes I'm not there. But at the end of the day, I understand the place. The complaint is the noise. I understand that. The music is not amplified. Clients are aware of that. They are told, hey, music cannot be amplified. And they love the place. So if the complaint is the noise, again, there are earplugs, or simply go outside and enjoy the music. It's a time, yes, ever since COVID, where we couldn't be outside and gather, and now when we can, it's like, let's just enjoy it and live it. Again, if the complaint is the trash, the 6 years that I lived in that community is, it's Maricopa, it's county. So the roads are not paved. We should be at the city of Goodyear complaining to them. Why can't they accept that zone and pave the roads or put stop signs there or a speed limit, for God's sake? So instead of having a hearing here for this, we should be not wasting time and going to another city. Aside from that, they're just a small business that, again, are trying to create memories for, maybe it could be one of their sons or daughters having a wedding there, and they wouldn't be complaining. Of course, they would want music there. Not amplified, right? But it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful moment, and they are able to give that and offer that to others. And I feel like if they opened their minds and their hearts just a little bit and got to know them and got to know the place and the animals there, I feel like they would too perhaps understand. I understand there's dust. Yeah, cars, sometimes people don't even realize what cars pass through there. Again, there are no paved roads, probably will never be because it's county. And there are no stop signs or speed limits there. And yeah, when I used to be there, I used to live right off the canal, and the cars would pass by, all the dust would come to my yard. I would get up every day, clean it. It's part of it. It's part of where you live, and you have to accept that. Again, I think if everyone really just took a moment to get to know the place, the family, why they're doing it, how they're helping others. If the problem is the trash, let's gather up Goodyear volunteers like we do in Goodyear. Gather up volunteers. Let's clean up the area once a month. I'll provide the waters. There's solutions for this. There are solutions for this. And I apologize if we're wasting your time, but I think this is just, there's a solution to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to be clear, no one's wasting our time. This is what we do. This is why we're the Board of Adjustment.
I understand that.
Okay, good.
No, I
But-
understand that. I was just, trying to prove my point. I know we're not wasting your time, but, there are definitely other much bigger problems.
I just see some people in the audience kind of nodding off, and I'm thinking of them as well. So, any event, that's the end of the speakers. And David, you started to say there's no one online, right?
That is correct, Chairman.
All right. For the applicant, Bill, do you want to do a rebuttal? If you could keep it brief, or you don't have to if you don't want to. But
Mr. Chairman, I'll just be available for comments, but summarize by saying there's still an ongoing process to go through the SUP. Were the hours probably the appropriate hours? No. Were some of the stipulations probably appropriate? No. I think we can work closely going forward with staff and the community to come up with a happy median and allow for what is a beautiful facility to coexist with a growing county island. So, but other than that, questions?
all right, thank you. I'm confident with you involved. It'll definitely help the process. Go ahead and close the public hearing. And I have a question of staff or a clarification. You've said it before, but whatever we do has zero bearing on the existing special use permit, correct?
Chairman, that's correct.
What if the temporary use permit were not approved and they had the event tomorrow, does that fall under the special use permit at all?
Mr. Chairman, if they host any event outside of temporary use permit approval, it is a zoning violation at this time.
Okay.
They do not have the permits completed that would authorize occupancy of the site for the event venue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just a couple of comments before I turn it over to the other board members. My wife has a home just not that far down the street. And I travel this area a lot, none of the dirt roads, but I'd use Lower Buckeye a lot and Cotton and Saraville because the 10, as everybody knows who lives here, is a disaster. And that makes Yuma a disaster. So you try to get as far south as you can and then head west. It's a rural area. It's an area in transition. It seems as though a lot of people in this audience have lived in the area, whether you're in favor or opposed to it, for a long time. And it's an area of transition. And some of you probably had a property and didn't think there would be something that's quasi-commercial in nature within your vicinity. But it's going to be changing there. As was already mentioned, the 303 is coming on down to MC 85. There's plans to expand Lower Buckeye. Yuma's being expanded. That's going to happen. I think it would be fair if I were to ask staff that probably their most troublesome zoning issue is in regards to these type of venues. I've worked as an applicant on some, and I've lived near some. Sometimes it's a trend, sometimes it's a process as it operates to try to get it to the point where it's as compatible as can be. At the beginning, you think it's going to be one way. As it works, maybe it's going to be a different way. With that said, and trying to be brief myself, I am in support of this temporary use permit. I understand the nature of the area. I deal with dust, house, Buckeye, noise, things like that. But in any event, I'm in favor of the temporary use permit. And I'll turn it over to anybody else. I see Fern had her hand up first, Craig, so I'll let her go. Go ahead, Member Ward.
Okay. I thank you, Chairman Loper. I agree with everything that you said as far as the neighborhood in transition. I've been making notes as I went. The community's having growing pains. I understand the dirt. I understand the loud music. My biggest concern, and I recognize this is only for tomorrow, is the applicant's disregard for the previous recommendations. And so I would have no problem with making a motion to approve tomorrow's event, but I would like to have the applicant go through each of what staff is asking so that they are aware of items number 12, A through, all the way down to A through Q, and have them tell me that they understand what staff is asking of them and that they will comply. And that's
Certainly
it for me.
want that on the record here at the hearing.
Sorry about that. My microphone was off. Member Ward, were you asking that those particular laundry list stipulations read and with the applicant kind of acknowledging their understanding and acceptance of those?
That would be my preference because I totally agree that it's a beautiful venue, but my only concern is that they seem to have disregarded all the previous recommendations. And so I would like acknowledgement from them that for tomorrow's event, they will be complying and that they understand what they are complying with.
All right. Staff's conferring with the county attorney. Hang on a second.
Mr. Chairman, and I think I misspoke earlier. The narrative, the temporary use permit case does not have a requirement for compliance with a site plan as we normally would, because obviously if you were to approve this, it is not possible. They have not given us a site plan. It does require substantial conformance with the narrative that they supplied. And it limits them on May 19th only to an event between 10 and 10 with the lights and the gates closed by 11. The temporary use permit expires at midnight, May 20. You want me to read these comments verbatim?
I think that's what Member Ward wanted to. It was 12A through.
But I would like the applicant to verify that they understand what's being asked of them.
But isn't necessarily read, but that they understand and will comply.
Yes.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you.
Member Ward, this is the applicant, Bill Lally with Tiffany Bosco. We've certainly shared the staff report, the 3 pages of conditions with the owners and the operators of the facility. They are very aware of the specific requirements. I probably won't be there tomorrow, so I won't be able to personally guarantee you of everything, but I think they are very, very aware of the conditions and will be working very, very hard to make sure they meet all of those conditions.
Mr. Chairman, I may be out of place, but would you be okay with asking the operator to go on record that if this temporary permit is approved, that afterwards they will cease and desist use of this site until they are able to come into compliance with all conditions of the governing special use permit, whatever that is at the time?
I'll turn it over to the applicant. Staff's asking that the operator agree with the statement that you just made.
I'll ask owner Miguel to come up to the podium. Again, that is our plan. We have an SUP in place today that is in violation. We understand what those violations are. I've conveyed in the last planning commission hearing correspondence to the county that it's our intent to work with the operator to make sure that they understand going forward what it's going to take to be able to continue to have operations. My understanding, and Miguel, you can speak if you'd like, but my understanding is, ironically, summer is a little slower in the wedding venue, so it's kind of a good opportunity for us to work closer together to accomplish what we need to. But Miguel, if you want to put on the record.
I understand. I'll give my word on that. Miguel Casares. I'll put my word on that.
And Mr. Chairman, just what I'm saying is, we're not talking about continued operation. There's, other than the fact that this temporary use permit may be approved, there should not be any operation until all permits are acquired and completed and other conditions are addressed. And that, my understanding is, this gentleman is saying they will not operate after this event until that is in place.
That's right.
And because we're dealing with the temporary use permit, the understanding of the temporary use permit's just for tomorrow. And the special use permit is for, but definitely work through it with Darren. All right, any other board members have any questions? Member Ward, were you finished?
I am done. Thank you.
Member Cardin?
Chairman Loper, thank you. I don't want to repeat what you said, so I won't. I appreciated your comments. I'll just add, I guess, I just thought to point out, from my perspective, hearing those who oppose this and those who were in favor, I think I don't think there's any reason to assume a bad motive for anything that any of them are saying. I think we're just hearing what their experience is. In summary, those who oppose it like things the way they've been before this venue came. Those who are in favor of it like the way things are going. And I appreciate both of those perspectives. I'll just tell you personally, I was probably most persuaded by the neighbor who spoke, Jeremy Garnier, who talked about his experience with it, he being the closest as I could tell. And for that reason, I intend to vote in favor. But I just wanted to point out, I really don't think there's anyone with a bad motive here, or just because they're in opposition or in support makes them have a bad motive. It just is different perspectives, and that's the wonderful society, free society we live in. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Member Clapp, did you have any comments?
I would agree with the comments that were just made. I've listened to everyone who spoke, and I see both your positions on this, that, there are some people who tolerate noise and dust a little better than others, obviously. And I'm glad that what we're saying today is that what we're going to be voting on is only for one event, that is tomorrow. And hopefully some of these problems can be resolved as the applicant gets back together with the city, or with the county, and talks about the special use permit. So I will be voting to approve this one-day PUP.
Thank you very much. This is in District 5. Member Ward, that's your district. If you wanted to make a motion, or if not, you want to defer to someone else, that's your
I would be
prerogative.
happy to make a motion to approve it following the recommendations from staff in item 12.
We have a motion for approval by Member Ward, subject to the stipulations outlined in the staff report. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Cardin. Rosalie, would you please do roll call vote?
Member Cardin,
Yes.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. And I say this all the time when there's a neighborhood issue, but I would hope there's some common ground that can be reached over the next few months with everyone, or at least most of you. And I wish you all the luck in reaching that point. Thank you. And that adjourns our hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Fern.